Hello, and welcome to a live pop culture on Deprogrammed. I am one of your hosts, Keri. I'm here with my co-host, Mystery Chris, who's looking pretty spooky tonight in his Halloween avatar. How are you, Mystery Chris?
I'm great. I spent all day going to Spirit Halloweens across town trying to find one that serviced cartoon characters. Not a lot, but I eventually found it.
Wait, what were you looking for?
Just cartoon, something that serviced cartoon people.
Oh, you're making a joke.
Yeah. I guess I wasn't.
Sorry, it took me a second. You are a cartoon person.
Cartoon
What are you
person
going to be
of
for
color.
Halloween? Let's review some of your greatest. Weren't you the hump? The
I was
hump?
Pootie Tang, which
Pootie-
nobody understood Pootie Tang because they thought I was Tim Meadows' character, the ladies' man from Saturday Night Live. I kept getting that. I was like, no, I'm Pootie Tang, Sadate. Didn't get it. I went as Sexual Chocolate from Coming to America. That was great. I went as Shock G from Digital Underground. I went as Bill Cosby.
That's right.
Yeah. Put in Pop Commando was one of my favorite costumes. I did that twice. He's not going to steal that joy from me.
But what about the guy with the nose?
Yeah, that was Shock G.
Shock G? Okay.
Yeah. And I won my costume contest at work that year. And they made me do the dance in front of everybody. It's a humiliation ritual. That's what it was.
Wow. And what are you going to be this year?
I don't know. I'm just going to recycle something. Probably, generic 80s man.
Generic 80s man.
Yeah. I'm going to have Flock of Seagulls hair, like a wig. And then I'm going to have like one of those brick phones.
I love it. I don't know. You could revive Cosby. Well, he hasn't been in the news much lately, but Puddin' Pop Cosby.
Yeah.
I'm going to be I Love Lucy.
Oh.
I got my Lucy wig, and we've been watching, Anthony and I watched the everybody, by the way, I'm so sorry. This is, if you're new here, this is my husband, Anthony Garcia, special guest joining us. Welcome. Thanks for being here. We watched a documentary about Lucy and Desi. It was great. And since then I've just been binging I Love Lucy episodes, which it still hold up. It's so funny.
They do.
It's so good.
So Anthony, you're going to be Ricky Ricardo?
Actually, Tiger's going to be Ricky Ricardo.
Ah.
He's Mexican.
Our dog is Mexican. That's true. I asked Anthony if he had a Congo drum. And what did you say, babe?
I just did the Ricky Ricardo thing.
He said.
Well, yesterday I came home. Is that too loud?
No.
Yesterday I came home and Keri was wearing her red Lucy wig with these red heart sunglasses and this like red zombie shirt. She's just like going about her normal cleaning the house and doing it. I was like, are we not going to address the fact that you're wearing this Lucy wig? Oh, and I saw you. I was like, Lucy, I'm home.
He did. He said, Lucy, I'm home. Well, it had just come in the mail and I had to try it out and see how it looked. Anyway, so welcome, guys. This is our de facto Halloween episode early. We're talking about rock and roll tonight. If you're new here, I hope you'll hang out with us. This is a show that we get to do every couple of weeks with one of my best friends, Mystery Chris, who is a bit of a pop culture aficionado or nerd, depending on how you'd like to phrase it. He knows you have an encyclopedic knowledge. And he's also a really good researcher, and he always pulls great historical clips, a lot of news clips. And so this is a show where we do deep dives into pop culture. We look at pop culture throughout history, and we look at news clips. We try to contextualize things and then sometimes apply it to, where we've ended up today, or do we have the benefit of hindsight about any of these issues, these hot topic cultural issues of the past. And so tonight's episode is about the war on rock and roll music. And were any of the fears that people had about rock and roll music well-founded? Did any of them come true? Did they have a point about some things, or was it all alarmist? And we're going to take a look at some of the biggest controversies, especially the young people you may not be familiar with. So tonight's going to be a fun one. My husband is joining us, Anthony Garcia. You can find him on YouTube at Anthony Garcia Music. He is a musician and he has a like greater knowledge than I do about music. And then our friend Nick Wesier is also going to be joining us. He's going to be a little late, but he'll be here soon. So we're going to get started. Where should we start, Mr. Cook? I'll let you take the lead.
Let's briefly just talk about Alan Freed. So rock and roll, the predecessor to rock and roll, rhythm and blues, and that was mostly, or pretty much all, black music genre. Used to be called race music, and
it was called race music.
Yeah, they called it race music. And so Alan Freed, a white guy, he was a DJ up in Ohio. He started playing a lot of R&B, and he started to refer to it as rock and roll. And so he's the person that's given credit for popularizing the term rock and roll, which was a euphemism for sex amongst a lot of blacks back then.
It was? I've never knew that.
Really? Yeah. And so, like,
I like to enjoy rock and roll by myself.
Wait a minute.
Oh, you also like to Netflix and chill by yourself.
That's just a joke. Anthony remembers years ago on my old podcast, somebody said something about Netflix and chill, and I said, well, they said you have to have somebody over to do that. And I was like, no, you don't. I Netflix and chill by myself. I didn't know it was a euphemism for anything dirty. I just thought it meant watching Netflix and hanging out. So welcome, Mr. Nick Wesier.
Hello.
You got here. Hello. You got here at a fun moment.
I actually would have been here a few minutes sooner, and now I was like, oh, sweet, I'm gonna be here before 15 minutes. And then my camera decided to not work. I was like, of course this happens right when I was almost not gonna be late.
Oh, do not sweat it.
Way
So
to
all
go.
we've done is set up the topic, really. And my husband, Anthony Garcia.
Hello, Anthony.
Hi.
Mystery Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Hey, Nick.
And for people who may be new to our channel or may not be familiar with you, can you tell them a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Sure. I have two channels. My main channel is a very long, convoluted name titled 32 Flavors of Nick Wesier. I'm just a dude who talks about cultural stuff, man stuff, whether that's comics, whether it's about heavy tunes, or whether it's about super machismo-based movies. And then, of course, my secondary channel I started doing with a few buddies of mine a few months ago called Bonded by Metal, which is where we talk strictly about the metal. So, yeah, I'm having a very fun time operating on both. It's a great time. I'm happy to be here. It's been a while, Keri.
It has been a while, and I thought of you immediately because, as I told the audience, tonight's show we're talking about we're stepping back in time.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at the war on rock and roll, and we're trying to, with the benefit of hindsight, was there anything that they got right, or were they just alarmists, or how does that cultural war that played out at the time compare to what we see going on today? So we were just getting started.
Perfect.
And you're a great person to have here for music. So
thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Mystery Chris, so you're telling us about Alan Freed, and now he was a white DJ in the 50s who started playing. He actually coined the term rock and roll, which I didn't know this, Nick. Maybe you did, but he said that was actually a euphemism for sex among Black people at the time.
I had heard that. I never really looked into it to see if there was any merit to that. But now that I'm hearing that there's actual truth to that, it's very interesting, but oddly kind of fitting.
Yep. It's called sex, drugs, and rock and roll for a reason.
So Mystery Chris, continue.
Yeah, so he was a DJ, and he started playing music, and he's credited for not only coining the term but helping popularize it amongst whites, because there was a lot of fear amongst whites about and blacks too about its influence on attitudes around sex and juvenile delinquency. But certainly for whites, there was a lot of concern that was promoting miscegenation. They didn't like the race mixing because a lot of these concerts would have both whites and blacks there, and there would be they'd have ropes trying to separate both the whites and the blacks at the concerts, but oftentimes they knock down the concert goers or knock down the rope and all start dancing together. And obviously that pissed off a lot of people.
No. How dare
I know.
they're trying to be one of the first crowds to literally break the divide. Oh no.
Well,
It was almost like they realized they had something in common. And it's like, hey, even if we have all these other problems, we like this. Imagine that.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because Alan Freed had a version of his show on television, and it was kind of like American Bandstand type program. But one of the episodes, Frankie Lyman, who's a black guy, after he was done singing a song, he grabbed the hand of a white girl, started dancing, and because of this, 13 stations canceled the show. Across it. Yeah.
What?
I
That's
I can't
crazy.
even. It's just such a different time.
don't know. But
So
I just
this
want to
is
play a
Alan
little bit
Freed?
just to give you a sense of what his radio
Sure.
program was like. Don't play anymore. That's good.
Okay, yeah.
I thought I queued it up when he was talking, but oh well. But yeah, that was it. And so we can move on to Elvis. Have you heard of this Elvis guy?
Oh, never heard of him. Hopefully he'll be big someday.
Go to. I just want to pull up the Ed Sullivan show, and we're just going to show him being introduced. Not going to play the music, but so Elvis, obviously, I don't need to explain Elvis to people. Elvis, one of them.
I don't know.
famous-
With some young people, you might need
That's
to.
true. Well, I don't.
my kids know Elvis only because my mom drove them crazy with the hits. I'm like, girls, listen to the other songs, and maybe you'll then appreciate Elvis, even if it's just a little bit. And it actually made them not resent Elvis from hearing the 5 hits. Even though he had more, my mom was like one of those ones who just listened to the same 5 songs. So it took to break them out of the cycle of the non-singles. Then realize, oh, okay, there's something cool to this Elvis guy now. Now my kids kind of get it. They kind of get it.
Yeah.
You guys, I have to refresh because my audio stopped again. So I'll be right back.
No.
You can talk- I know Anthony is a fan of Elvis also, so he might have something to say. I'll be right back.
I don't know if
Anthony,
you know
say
who.
something.
Yeah, I'll throw some Anthony's
something.
way
Yeah.
about Elvis, because my knowledge, on Elvis outside of knowing some of the non-singles, a singer I really like has done a covers album on Elvis hits. Even though I'm not a cover guy, it's just funny because who he is in his background, you wouldn't see him and think this guy wouldn't cover Elvis, but it turns out Elvis is his favorite singer of all time, and I'm talking about Mr. Glenn Danzig. You may have heard of Danzig, or even when he was in the Misfits. He had, under the Danzig name, he has I think 2 albums now of Elvis covers.
Wow,
I want to look into them.
that's
And
crazy. I didn't know
he
that.
actually does have a fairly respectable Elvis impersonation, and it's
Huh.
GD himself doing it.
Wow, there
Right?
was that's crazy. I was gonna say there was a band in have you ever heard of the band called Dread Zeppelin?
Dread Zeppelin.
Yeah.
No.
They're like this. They're like sort of a Zeppelin cover band, but
Okay.
the lead singer dressed up like Elvis, and his name was Tortelvis.
What? I like that.
I don't know if they were local to where I grew up or if they're like kind of regional, but they were always coming around my town when I was young, so I always thought it was kind of a funny.
No, that is cool.
Okay, this is Elvis Presley on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Well, you're probably all wondering what these objects are behind me. I have a very good answer for you. I'm going to tell you, rather. They're gold records. Now, these gold records, 4 of them, have been awarded to a singing star that you're going to meet in a moment. You know very well who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Elvis Presley. And these gold records are a tribute to the fact that 4 of his recordings have each sold more than 1 million copies. And this, by the way, is the first time in record-making history that a singer has hit such a mark in such a short time. At the very first opportunity, Ed Sullivan will award these gold records to him personally, but now it's time to meet the singer I've been talking about, and so away to Hollywood to meet Elvis Presley.
Yeah, that was not Ed Sullivan. This is
It wasn't. It was like a guy filling in for him.
That was like the Alfred Hitchcock music show. The guy was, I don't know who that was. It was creepy.
Yeah, young people. That's not Ed Sullivan, but this is the Ed Sullivan appearance, right?
Yeah. So I think he was on the show 2 or 3 times, but one of the appearances are obviously all the appearances. They did the thing where they only showed the top half of him because they were concerned that his hips gyrating was enticing women young girls to get very aroused. And so Elvis is generally credited as one of the people who made rock and roll huge by kind of combining rhythm and blues and country music. And so it's technically more rockabilly, it's closer to rockabilly, I think. But it started being referred to as rock and roll. So we saw that shift a little waves from rhythm and blues to more rockabilly, which was then being put forward as rock and roll.
So before we get into this next clip, can someone summarize, especially with younger people in mind, just how popular was Elvis? Do we have anyone today that we could compare him to? I mean, maybe Michael Jackson, but that's not even today. You know, how would we help young people understand what a phenomenon this was?
Taylor Swift, is that the closest?
Oh my gosh!
Well, I mean, none of us were alive during that time either, so that's kind of hard to. That's hard to really. I mean, that's hard to give a realistic answer to. I mean, the only thing that I could really compare him to in my lifetime was Michael Jackson, because he was around when I went to see when I was 10 years old. Michael Jackson was hitting big, so that was insane. And so that's the only. I think it'd be really hard for us to answer that, any of us.
I think the Taylor Swift answer probably it to be as much as I can't stand her. I do feel like that is the most fair answer because she is big amongst young crowds, and she does, like, especially in America, and I have to emphasize America. She fills up like quite massive venues, and if that at least gives you an idea of how well, let's just say if you say to your kid, well, see, when she plays, let's just say, for example, we'll just say Soldier Field for conversation's sake, which is where the Chicago Bears play in Chicago, football stadium. Now imagine Elvis doing that, except he did that for 2 or 3 nights. You say that, and then the kid starts to get some perspective, like, whoa.
Yeah.
So if you emphasize and make some comparisons like that, that'll probably be the closest you can get to that. Now, even then, that's still debatable, and maybe he could have done 3 nights, but at least you give them somewhat of a basis, because it really is insane how massive he was, and he still like carries over for what, half a century now, since he passed on. It's insane how his legend still carries on the way that it does.
Yes, I think he was also one of the first like one name people. Like, just Elvis. You don't even need the rest, right?
Yeah.
So this, in addition to being very popular and being a phenomenon, and girls were screaming, when he was playing, he caused a lot of controversy. As you mentioned, they would often film him from the waist up because they did not want to. They thought it was too sexual the way he was dancing. There were lots of preachers who were preaching against him and against rock and roll. I know, just anecdotally, my mom, for example, had an Elvis record collection, which we now have some of those records here, but they were only the gospel records. My grandma would not allow her to own any of the Elvis records except for the gospel ones because it was too dirty. It was considered dirty. So what is this next clip?
Oh, you could actually skip this one and go to the next one. Sorry.
Hey, before we move on from Elvis, can I just share something real quick? So I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this book, Sam Phillips, The Man Who Invented Rock and Roll, but I just wanted to show this. I pulled it off the shelf, and this is Sam Phillips is the founder of Sun Records, and he was the one who discovered Elvis, he was the first one to record Elvis, but he also was instrumental in finding Howlin' Wolf, B.B. King, and a lot of the blues guys from Beale Street, and it's a fascinating book. There's so many great. It's about Sam Phillips and starting Sun Records, and then ultimately finding Elvis, and then when Elvis's contract got out. But it follows Sam Phillips's life beyond Elvis. And one of the interesting things I thought was that in the book, Sam Phillips says, like, if he could have chosen one artist to have worked with to focus his entire career on, it would have been Howlin' Wolf. He chose Howlin' Wolf over Elvis, which is pretty crazy. And Howlin' Wolf's unbelievable. He's but anyways, so I wanted to share that with anybody who is interested in reading that. It's a fantastic book.
I'm gonna add this. We're not actually moving on from Elvis quite yet.
No, yeah, it's the last one for Elvis, but
Oh, sorry.
this is it's all good. This is a interview he did in which he was questioned about some of the controversies regarding him and his music, and here's what he gives his answers.
Didn't he have, because we saw the dramatized Elvis movie that came out recently, and wasn't there that one performance where they sent police officers there to the stage? Do you know which one I'm talking about? Was it Westwood Park? Let me play this.
What it was.
Look it up.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that your rocking and rolling has had an evil influence on teenagers, or you think it gives them an outlet?
I don't see that any type of a music would have any bad influence on people when it's only a music. I mean, I can't figure it out. I mean, in a lot of the papers, I say rock and roll is a big influence on juvenile delinquency. I don't think that it is. Juvenile delinquency is something that's, it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but I don't see how music would have anything to do with it at all.
I understand that Mitch Miller of Columbia Records defines rock and roll as a safe form of rebellion against mother, father, and teacher. Do you go along with this analysis?
I don't exactly know what he means by rebellion. I mean, how would rock and roll music make anybody rebel against their parents?
Well, I guess that answers Mr. Miller. Now, I've got a couple of questions here I'd like to sort of clear
You could
up.
stop it there.
One of them,
a lot to
and-
get
and it's
through.
sort of-
That's an interesting clip. And you could expand a whole topic on
Mhm.
everything he said.
Yeah, he's asking him about, for anybody who may have had trouble hearing that, he was asking him that a lot of people are saying your music would cause children to rebel against their mother, father, and teachers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, all music has some effect on us. It's just a question about to what degree does it affect us? Because you can look at rap music in the Black community, and certainly that has not been a good influence.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question is more about why do so many teenagers feel the need to rebel? Because I think the reaction to rock music was more reacting to a symptom and not the cause. Because society at that time and to this day is continuing to get more hedonistic and more nihilistic. And I think a lot of people were just finding they were more resonating with some of these songs and artists and really the cultures around certain types of music. And so I personally don't think it's the main driver for a lot of these changes in societies. I just think that it's reflecting, it's amplifying, pun intended. And I think a lot of people are just having negative reaction towards that and kind of going after the wrong things. And as we progress through the 80s particular, we'll see how people start to blame things that I think kind of gets away from the true cause of society changing.
I agree with Chris on that. You know, I'm sure like it definitely added to the rebellion, but I truly don't believe that it's the cause. I believe that because parents at the time, and this is a thing that carries on for generations, when something comes out that's new and I guess you could say hot for the sake of a buzz term, yeah, they don't recognize it and they get very suspicious and skeptical very quickly of what it is, and they fear the influence of what it is because it's the unknown that they fear of that, and they kind of jump to conclusion. Sometimes they end up being right in some cases, and a lot of them it's really just an overreaction. And when kids see their parents acting that way over a thing, that kind of gives them that like motivation to want to get into it more. It's like, no. Some things, you know, the more you tell someone you don't want to do this, you don't want to do this, well, sometimes they're going to want to go the other way and just do that thing. I mean, it's when you let someone you see like an album on the rack. Who wants a censored copy when you can have the uncensored? You're going to listen to mom and say, okay, mom, I'm going to buy the censored copy. You're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to get the uncensored, especially when you hear those words. It's going to make you not want to listen to them, especially once again, sometimes for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. When parents act that way, yeah, kids tend to go that other direction that much harder. So some way I feel like it's the overreaction that is the true amplifier of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Streisand effect.
And that was a new thing too in the 50s because the demographic that teenagers are, that only had a label since the 1920s. Like the word teenager only existed, since the 20s, 100 years or so, and it didn't get widespread usage until, the late 40s. Because before that, teenagers, people in that demographic, they weren't being forced to go to school. They were going to work, working for their parents, helping the parents' business, going to work in a factory. So they didn't have time to sit around thinking about what they want to do with their life. They also weren't being forced into these weird artificial social hierarchies that exist in high school, and people trying to figure out where do they rank in that social hierarchy, or trying to come in terms with their low status in that hierarchy. That was all new things that teenagers were going through. And so I think a lot of that got reflected in the music. And like Nick just said, parents reacted to the music and then just made it cooler to the kids, and just kept feeding into one another.
I want to read you guys some of the summary on Wikipedia of the cultural impact of Elvis. And this is on the part where they talk about the criticisms at the time. Now, of course, I don't give, it's Wikipedia, but there are some quotes here with some sources. And so this is kind of a good thumbnail view. It says Elvis was considered by some to be a threat to the moral well-being of young women because, quote, Elvis Presley didn't just represent a new type of music. He represented sexual liberation. This is what one of the papers said at the time. Presley generated an anti-parent outlook. That's in quotes. And was the, quote, personification of evil, someone called him. To many adults, the singer was, quote, the first rock symbol of teenage rebellion. They did not like him and condemned him as depraved. Anti-Negro prejudice doubtless figured in adult antagonism, regardless of whether parents were aware of the Negro sexual origins of the phrase rock and roll. Presley impressed them as the visual and oral embodiment of sex, end quote. In 1956, a critic for the New York Daily News wrote that popular music has reached its, quote, lowest depths in the grunt and groin antics of one Elvis Presley. That was in 1956. The New York Daily News says that music has reached its lowest depths in the grunt and groin. Really? They had no idea what was coming. Cardi B. I mean,
I know. Well, a lot of them thought it was a fad. They thought rock and roll was only going to last for a few years and then disappear.
One other quote. This one was from Frank Sinatra, and Frank Sinatra had a bit of a competitiveness with him. And Frank Sinatra, who's huge at the time, but with older people, he said, quote, Elvis's music is deplorable, a rancid smelling aphrodisiac. It fosters almost totally negative and destructive reactions in young people.
Damn, Frank.
Anyway.
There is some serious mental gymnastics. And now I'm going to be making a bold claim that could be wrong. I feel like they were just really trying to sensationalize and try to sell some papers, because at times you can use headlines like that and that would get people to buy something off the stands just like that. And now I guess you could say probably some of the last years of magazines being prominent was like their early to mid 2000s. And I remember people buying, like a magazine because of a particular headline that was on the cover. And that was probably the last few years of the magazine having that dominant headline on the market. And I feel like that's just them trying to push that. Obviously, with them trying to overemphasize and overhype and sensationalize everything too. But yeah, that stuff sells and it gets conversation going. And of course, everyone always needs to have a boogeyman too. That's the thing. There's one thing I've noticed that generations always repeat. They always got to have a boogeyman. And when one boogeyman's no longer a boogeyman, the new one comes and takes its place. And the thing that's no longer the boogeyman, well, never really had much problems all
along. Along those lines, one last thing of him being the boogeyman, the law did get involved. I wasn't wrong. I thought I might be wrong. I thought they might have fictionalized that part. But it was a judge in Jacksonville, Florida in 1956 who called Elvis a quote wow and threatened to arrest him if he shook his body while performing at Jacksonville's Florida Theater.
What? Wow.
No gyrating.
Elvis the pelvis.
Yeah, Elvis the pelvis. Wow.
That's what they called him.
Did they? I did not know that. Wow.
And Keri, you can skip some of this stuff because I gotta get through it. Oh, I did want to briefly mention. Oh, first of all, you don't have to pull this up, but Blackboard Jungle, which is a movie that came out in 1955 about juvenile delinquency, that was credited as also helping popularize rock music because it featured Bill Haley's "Rock Around the Clock" in the beginning, and that was super controversial. It's the first time Hollywood incorporated rock music into any of their movies. But the movie was banned in a number of cities because apparently when kids were going to see this, like many of them were like not only dancing during the films or during the music part, but they were also like tearing up the seats. And so these are little mini riots. So it got banned not only in cities in America, but also cities in England. I think it got banned in London, got banned one of the cities in Australia. And so they were very troubled by this movie. And Sidney Poitier is in this movie, by the way.
Blackboard Jungle. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't watched it. Just clips of it. But it seems like a proto Dangerous Minds. You know, like in the 80s and 90s, there's a series of films about a teenager, or a substitute teacher, a new teacher that goes into like inner city school. Like, was the Edward James Almost movie? How do I reach these kids? What is that movie?
Oh yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, one of those movies. It kind of seemed like it was the first of those. But anyway, and then briefly, I wanted to mention Little Richard. You got to give Little Richard his props because he was one of, you don't have to pull up the videos, but he was one of the pioneers of rock and roll. But one of the things I found out when I was researching this, I found the original lyrics to Tutti Frutti. It's about gay sex, like the original lyrics.
How do you know?
Straight up.
Why would he sing something like that?
I know. I have no idea. I don't know. And so, like, when he recorded the song, he changed it. It was still a little dirty, but when Pat Boone covered it, he cleaned it up. Because Pat Boone was kind of a Boy Scout. And so whenever he did covers of R&B songs, they would make them super clean. Because there was a lot of risque stuff and a lot of the rhythm and blues songs. But yeah, I just thought that was strange fact. I was like, yeah, really? I'll never think about that song the same way.
Oh wow. Okay. Don't look up the original lyrics to Tutti Frutti.
I put a link in there. You wanted to see the lyrics.
Oh my goodness. Little Richard.
I know.
Can I pull up this preacher who's preaching against rock?
It's a short clip.
Okay.
But, yeah, one of the preachers against rock, because you'll see a lot of religious leaders were against rock all throughout 50s through the 90s.
Here from New York and from Florida to find out my reasons on rock and roll music and why I preach against it, and I believe with all of my heart that it is a contributing factor to our juvenile delinquency of today. I 100% believe it. Why I believe that is because I know how it feels when you sing it. I know what it does to you. And I know the evil feeling that you feel when you sing it. I know the lost position that you get into in the beat. Well, if you talk to the average teenager of today and you ask them what it is about rock and roll music that they like, and the first thing they'll say is the beat, the beat, the beat.
The beat, the beat, the beat. So is this true? Do you have an evil feeling when you play and dance?
Well, I mean, as an adult, I think looking at a clip like this as an adult, it's funny because you see a guy talking like this, and he's almost a caricature of what a preacher is that's denouncing rock and roll and hedonism. But at the same time, I kind of sort of agree with him a little bit.
See?
So it's this weird thing. Maybe it's because I'm older. But, I mean, there are reasons why the church and throughout history have condemned certain actions, and the church meaning, like, I'm talking back in medieval times, Catholic Church up into like the evangelical Christian church has denounced certain things. I mean, there are reasons for that, and I can understand them as an adult. I do, and I can understand what he's saying. I mean, if I were a parent in 1953 and Elvis Presley came out and I had teenage daughters, I mean, I would be appalled. I would have been freaking out. I mean, I don't blame anyone
because he was a sex symbol, kind of like they thought he was attractive. And
Well, okay, so if we back it up a decade, I mean, you had Sinatra, who was even controversial in his day, and I mean, gosh, forget Sinatra. Like, I mean, when you compare Elvis and Sinatra, I mean, Elvis is Satan, pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
came out of nowhere, so popular. I mean, I think it did cause concern for parents, and I rightfully so. I think. I mean, I think we can look back at a clip like that and laugh because little did they know what was coming in just 50 short years or however long, 30, 40 short years. So I don't know. I kind of agree with what the guy's saying, but
you agree with, do you think there's something, just to clarify, so it's very clear what you think, do you think rock and roll itself, like rock music, is like evil?
Yes, it's all no. No, I don't think it's evil. In fact, once we get into like metal and stuff, which is something I always wanted to talk about anyways, it's like a lot of these quote unquote evil artists, these quote unquote satanic artists actually have very positive lyrics. They have lyrics about making yourself a better person. They even teach about like history. They talk about different subjects and and knowing who you are, how important it is to know who you are, things like that. And I think that the music itself gets a bad rap, and I think a lot of things get bundled. It just gets bundled with a lot of other things. It's like anything. The source is generally pure. It's the followers who make it, who taint it, and it's a factor. I don't think it's solely responsible for. I think children. I think there's so many factors, and I think kids just are always looking to rebel. I mean, we were all that age. We were all that age at one point, and
And when that stuff comes out at a time where you're very impressionable, you're gonna lean into it that much more. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the things they were saying about rock music back then was the same things they were saying about jazz music when it first came about.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like now, granted, I feel like the guy had a bit of a mixed bag as far as how I felt about some of the stuff. Some of it, I could see his point. Some of it, I'm not so sure on. The one thing I feel like that did resonate with me was the following the beat part. And this is something I've experienced, with my children. Because, my kids are like, oh, well, I always say, hey, girls, be watchful, of what you're listening to. I'm not saying like I'm going to like take the, your Chromebook away from me, but just be watchful. And they'll say, I remember I've had my old say, but I don't really like lyrics. I was like, oh, well, I guess that's good. But she's like, I'm more of like a beat type. I'm like, that's fine. But sometimes you could accidentally fall into a spiral, getting into stuff that ends up being not something that you really, that's something that doesn't really sum you up as a person. And she's like, okay, and I saw that whole conversation. I had that conversation with her about the whole thing with the beat. And it's like, that's great that you may not like lyrics, but still, like, someone else might. And someone else might start thinking about what that's to be said and start even getting the wrong idea. That's why it's important that kids have those conversations with their parents, because kids can easily misunderstand things. Even things that seem on the nose or obvious could sometimes be figurative or metaphorical. And it's very important that parents have those conversations that emphasize, hey, sometimes there could be broad meanings to things. Not everything is always as it seems. I mean, obviously, the Filthy 15, they dealt with a lot of that. I'm sure you'll have that later in the show. We'll cross that bridge. But you get the point, though. There's a lot of stuff that kids don't really understand when it comes to lyrics and music. And it's important to address that conversation that not everything is so little. And you have to learn to kind of figure out which is what. What is, like Elvis, very literal, versus something like Ozzy's Suicide Solution, which really wasn't pro-suicide. It's learning that distinction.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll get to Mr. Ozzy.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Ozzy, which of these, before we get to the Beatles, which of these remaining links should I make sure to hit, Mr.
Pull up the Martin Luther King comment on rock and roll.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know this. He chimed in on the controversy. So
I had no idea he had opinions like this. I want to
know.
Let's see what moral opinions he has.
You're talking because yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
He did have a bit of women a lot of women on the side, Mr. Keen.
Yeah.
Okay. Advice for living.
Yeah, so
April
second
1958.
question. It's where someone asked.
Question. I'm a 17-year-old musician and I belong to the church. I play gospel music and I play rock and roll. Is it a sin to play rock and roll music for a living? And Martin Luther King answered, the question of whether playing rock and roll for a living is sinful or not sinful is really not the basic question confronting you. The real question is whether one can be consistent in playing gospel music and rock and roll music simultaneous. It seems to me that one must decide to either play gospel music or rock and roll. The two are totally incompatible. The profound sacred and spiritual meaning of the great music of the church must never be mixed with the transitory quality of rock and roll music. The former serves to lift men's souls to higher levels of reality and therefore to God. The latter so often plunges men's minds into degrading and immoral depths. Therefore, I would say that you would be giving your life to a more noble purpose if you concentrated on the music of the church rather than on rock and roll. Never seek to mix the two. Well, he's never heard of Striper.
Well,
music segregationist.
Even Striper though, like, have said like out loud, hey, if we had a choice to like open for a band like Ghost, they totally would. I don't know if you know who Ghost are, but they're a band that's become really big in the 2020s with younger audiences in particular. They look very the opposite of Striper. And they look very dark and they sing about dark stuff, very dark stuff. But outside the suits, the singer said, yeah, this is all just a gimmick. We don't actually mean what we say. This is just all for show. It's all about the spooky theatrics and such. But Striper feel like they have the confidence that they can play to crowds that they feel would not be into their music and still win them over. Right?
Yes.
For me, that's a boost of confidence. That's saying, hey, we know you are probably think you're going to play this anti-Christian crowd. We're going to win that crowd over. That's confidence, and I
love that.
And that's how how you should have that, because otherwise, you can't say, hey, we want people to, at least consider these other thoughts and philosophies without, giving them something to have a shot at it with.
Yeah. I love that. Like you said, Nick, I think it's bold confidence. And they're like, I can go in front of this non-Christian rock audience and our music is so good and our message is about Jesus and we can win them over.
Yeah, and, I love that. I love that. I'm like, I want it to happen now. I would go.
I think I only know about Striper because of you, by the way. And I love that.
Oh, you're the one that told her about Striper. Okay,
yeah, I was. No, I love that. And I even love their newer stuff to this day. I feel like they're still crushing it now to this day. It's crazy because they're in their 60s. They got 12 albums. And I think their new stuff is still great, and it holds up with the 80s stuff.
I haven't listened to them. I listened to them when I was in Catholic school when I was like 12, and I was first getting into like guitar and rock and roll.
Yeah.
So it was funny. It was like near beer. It was okay to listen to this Striper. It was funny.
That is funny.
Okay, so should we move on to the Beatles?
Let's do it. The Beatles Invasion.
Let's go. This should be
and
fun.
So while you pull that up, so rock and roll was kind of on the decline in the late 50s. Elvis went into the military. You had Jerry Lee Lewis, who married his 13-year-old. I still can't believe that. Married a 13-year-old.
I would also like to say Chuck Berry is the king.
I was about to say Chuck Berry.
Oh, sorry.
He spent some time in jail for bringing a 14-year-old Mexican girl across borders into the States. Little Richard came born again and kind of moved away from the sexualized music. And also you had the payola scandal where it came out that a lot of the record companies were paying DJs to play music, Alan Freed being one of them. And a lot of Congress people and preachers and activists against rock were accusing the payola scandal of promoting rock and roll. They said the only reason why it was big was because they were paying to put it on the radio. And so Alan Freed's career was basically ruined, and he ended up years later dying broke and an alcoholic. Sad story.
Wow. I've got this queued up. You didn't have this on the list, but I just want to show people this. This was Beatlemania. This was how women reacted to the Beatles. And this was when they were, I guess, playing at the Hollywood Bowl.
I've seen this. Yeah, I've seen these clips. Yeah, they went nuts. They
insane.
went crazy. And then you see them going crazy. You should have seen the boy band explosion of the late 90s. They were like that, except they're practically doing backflips when they saw the Backstreet Boys.
Well, we talked about it on our what the F is wrong with Gen Z episode. We talked about internet personalities, and I show Speed. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he's a YouTuber, black guy who just goes around the world, and no matter what country he goes in, he gets swarmed where hundreds, sometimes thousands of people acting just like that. Mostly young men, like teenagers stuff. They're all going insane.
Who is
he
that?
doesn't play. Well, he does make music. What?
Who is it?
I Show Speed.
Okay.
Huge YouTuber.
Oh, I know who he is.
Okay.
Yeah, your kids
I know
probably
who he
watch
is.
him. Yeah.
Okay, my kids know him because we saw him get put. He was in this WWE event called the Royal Rumble, and they brought him into the Royal Rumble, and he got thrown out immediately and speared very viciously.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
Okay. So this is the first link you gave me, and this is a very famous quote from John Lennon, who was quoted as saying about the Beatles, "We are more popular than Jesus now."
Yeah, and the quotes there, big font.
He said, "Christianity will go. It will vanish and sink." Wow. Okay. I didn't know the full quote. That's actually the first time I think I've read it.
Really?
Christianity will go. It will vanish and sink. I needn't argue about that. I'm right and will be proved right. We are more popular than Jesus now. I don't know which will go first, rock and roll or Christianity. Jesus was all right, but his disciples were thick and ordinary. It's them twisting it that ruins it for me.
Yeah. And I was sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, if I kind of hate to defend John Lennon, but that quote was actually spoken in confidence to a journalist friend of his. He wasn't on the record. They were just kind of having a conversation. And also he, in later interviews, and I don't know if it's the official answer, or I really honestly believe him, but he was saying that he wasn't saying that the Beatles were greater or better than God. He was actually commenting on how sad the culture was, that a pop act, just some pop act was people were going so nuts about them, and they were just some, basically just some band, and they're more important than Jesus. That people were taking the Beatles and putting them in a higher position than Jesus, and he thought it was actually a sad thing about that was happening to society. That was
he didn't articulate himself too well there,
Yeah.
but
probably the drugs. Probably
yeah.
didn't help articulate it. To be fair,
True.
I've read enough stories on these guys in books on how they carry themselves or couldn't carry themselves. A lot of them can now, the ones who are still alive, but back then, from the 60s through the 2000s, oh boy, yeah, the drugs, especially in sex, drugs, and rock and roll, the drugs. Woo.
Well, and also the Beatles are a funny band because I'm sorry, Chris. I know
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say the funny thing about the Beatles is that they are they have this image. They had this clean, wholesome image, which was really put them at. Speaking of Elvis, the Beatles came after Elvis, and Elvis looked at them as a direct threat, and was very threatened by them, and saw them as competition. In
the way that Frank Sinatra saw him.
Right. And if you ever listen to the Beatles describe the time that they met Elvis, it's actually pretty funny. They were just like they were actually driven to his house, and he was just like in his bathrobe, like playing the bass, and he wouldn't even get up. He wouldn't even look at him. They were like, "Well, there's Elvis." The funny thing is that they have this image that they're family friendly, they're squeaky clean boy band image, and they were the most like degenerate. I mean, they were like backstage with women and just obviously with drugs and stuff like that. John Lennon in particular was just not a very good person. I mean, he like cheated on his wife so many times. I mean, multiple affairs. I mean, I could go on and on with stories about that. But at the same time, I think also though, speaking musically, they got their hands dirty musically speaking, in the fact that they reinvented themselves so many times and they took so many risks. And one of my favorite quotes is from Lemmy. Of Motorhead, and many consider him like the grandfather of metal, and he was a huge Beatles fan, Did you ever see that documentary about Lemmy, by the way?
Oh yeah,
it's a great one. And fantastic. So there's a scene where he's in the record store and he's going through all the Beatles records, and he's just like, the Beatles were so hardcore. People always compare the Stones to the Beatles.
I remember that part.
He's like, the Stones were so posh. They were from London. They all had really posh backgrounds, and they all went to Mick Jagger was going to be an accountant or something like that. But then you had the Beatles, and they were from working class Liverpool, and they fought their way. They played in Hamburg, and they were playing in the clubs, and they played in Liverpool, and they got in fights, and they were the real. Like he was like, they were more hardcore than the Stones were.
Yeah,
that was true.
What made me view the Beatles differently when that moment when Lemmy Kilmister said, I was like, whoa. Because I didn't know any of that stuff. When he said that, I didn't know any of that stuff. And I was like, really? Yeah. Then I kind of looked into it. I'm like, oh, crud. He was right about it. Yeah, that was like, I made me realize, wow, they really were like the true, working man's hard-hitting rebellion image.
I mean, they were having to play like just Hamburg alone when they first started, when they really cut their teeth in the clubs in Hamburg. They were playing 12 hours a night. I mean, that's insane. That is an insane amount of music. And that was like night after night after night. It wasn't like 2 nights a week. It was like every night. I mean, that's when they were popping pills. They were doing all kinds of drugs. I mean, they were like between 17 and 21, but they were just learning so many songs, having to deal with the drunken sailors and the merchants. And then they were Englishmen in Germany. I mean, there's just so many dynamics to the things that made them grow up over there. If you listen to any of the interviews with the Beatles, they're just like, we grew up in Hamburg. That's where we grew up, basically. Mm-hmm. That's where they became men or adults or whatever. So anyways, I just think that looking at the Beatles in those terms, in this particular band, they really were very rock and roll in that way. They were kind of rebellious and just got their hands dirty in so many ways,
I just brief anecdote. I worked at Austin's ACL, like, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe 10 years ago. It's been a while. But I worked at the Paul McCartney tent and getting his dressing room ready. And one of the things we had to do that his tour manager sent us to do was to polish his wine glasses. And every time we polished them, she came over and said that there were too many spots on them and that there's too many spots for Paul, and we had to polish them again. And then my friend was doing, I can't do a British accent, but he was saying, I didn't cut my teeth working 12 hours a night in Hamburg so I could have spotty wine glasses. We were just imagining him like holding them up to the light, like, this isn't good enough for Paul McCartney. I just want to put for the record, I don't know that he's a diva. I don't think he is. I think that was just his standards for his tour manager. But anyway, okay, I've got a clip here of what is this one, Mr. Chris?
So this is about the controversy about Lennon's comments, and so it talks briefly about the reaction in Japan, and then it starts talking about the reaction in America.
The Beatles arrived in Japan today as their tour of the Far East continues. Across the Pacific in the United States, a furor is developing over comments John Lennon made. Quote, Christianity will go. It will vanish and shrink. We're more popular than Jesus, unquote. Here in Tokyo, violence broke out when right-wing fanatics demonstrated against the Beatles and their effect on Japanese youth.
This is Tommy Charles. If you, as an American teenager, are offended by statements from a group of foreign singers which strike at the very basis of our existence as God-fearing, patriotic citizens, then we urge you to take your Beatle records, pictures...
Wow, this was pre-Dixie Chicks.
Years to the pickup points about to be named, and on the night of the Beatles' appearance in Memphis, August 19th, they will be destroyed in a huge public bonfire at a place to be named soon. Stay tuned to Wacky for further development.
They had a huge public bonfire. I think I didn't know that.
Yeah, it gets worse.
Now, this religious controversy, I know you don't want to say too much about it, but does it worry you that it's going to boil up when you get to the States?
Well, it worries me, yes, but I hope everything will be all right in the end of the day.
Well, I think the Beatles are a real talented group, but I think that they need to watch what they say because they're in such a position that a lot of teenagers really think of them as something really big, and when they say things like that, some teenagers are going to just believe anything they say.
No, but I'm not saying that we're better or greater or comparing us with Jesus Christ as a person or God as a thing or whatever it is. You know, I just said what I said and it was wrong or was taken wrong, and now it's all this.
Did you mean that the Beatles are more popular than Christ? When I was talking about it was very close and intimate with this person that I know who happens to be a reporter. I was using expressions on things that I just read and derived about Christianity, only I was saying it in the simplest form that I know, which is the natural way I talk.
What's the most enjoyable thing to you about this adulation, this almost godhood on earth that you've achieved?
Don't say that. It was him. He said it. You all saw
that. Wow.
But yeah, apparently Lyndon felt really bad because they were getting death threats, especially in the South. Because like when the interview was published in Britain, it didn't create a controversy. It wasn't until it was printed here in America, specifically in the South, where people were really angry. And I think we're gonna, you can skip the apology thing. That video that you show was part of the apology. But
so they issued like a public, we're sorry.
Yeah, they decided to come out with that. And so I think they only played in Memphis and here in the South, but that was enough to upset the KKK. And so there's a number of links. We don't have time to go through all of them.
Well, they were also refusing to play at segregated audiences too. I think that maybe that had something to do with it too.
Yeah.
The backlash they were getting from the KKK, but I mean maybe not. But I know that they definitely were refusing to play segregated audiences at some venues.
Wow. So that probably played a part. And so the Grand Dragon of the KKK, he came out against them?
Yeah, he did an interview criticizing them. And so actually go to the last one, because the last one is a short interview with a guy in the full KKK outfit making threats against the Beatles, which I thought was ridiculous.
Okay, here we go. I have the moral arbiters who are the KKK.
They don't like blacks, don't like Jews, they don't like the Beatles.
Don't like Elvis. Okay, here we go.
The newspapers that they're getting better than Jesus himself, and the Ku Klux Klan, being a religious order, is going to come out here the night that they appear at the Coliseum here, and we're going to demonstrate with different ways.
Are you sure this isn't Alex Stein?
Right? He sounds way too chill about all this.
He's got cool glasses. He's a cool guy.
He looks kind of modern too.
Time traveler confirmed.
Tactics to stop this performance. The Klan is going to come out here because we're the only organization that will come out and make a stop to these accusations. This is nothing but blasphemy, and we're going to try to stop it any terror way we can, but it's going to stop. We're known as a terror organization. I think we have a terror organization. We have ways and means to stop this if this is going to be the case. Yes.
What ways and means?
Oh, I don't want to say this, but there'll be a lot of surprises Monday night, I believe, when they get here.
I know.
Dang, that's just straight up like we are
You
terrorists.
just swore
and there will
he
be
was
some.
talking about a mass murderer. Instead of people going to play music and then probably just leave and go back to where they came from.
Right.
Wow. If I didn't know who the Beatles were, I could have sworn he was talking about like Gacy or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, we are going to stop this. There was also... Go ahead.
I was going to say, imagine the recruiting possibilities in the 90s if the KKK came out against Nickelback. That would have brought so many people over to their camp.
I know you said we're going to skip this one, but just very quickly, this is more of the KKK protesting the Beatles. And they did a cross burning.
Yep.
And they brought the kids.
Family affair.
Just amazing.
Wow.
Because of rock and roll.
And there were people also accusing the Beatles of inspiring communist, working on behalf of the communists. And I'm like, wow, this is
Well, John Lennon did eventually, Anthony was telling me about this in one of the books he was reading and some of the clips he sent me. He was advocating at some point for some pretty commie policies. He did want to free all of the prisoners in New York
It's
State.
that new documentary that came out. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a new. It just came out this year. I think I was watching on the plane when I was coming back from Europe, and yeah, there was. It was a really just. John Lennon's one of these people that I look at now as an adult, and I just look at him and I'm like, man, this guy just really didn't know what I kind of feel like he was just throwing it at the fan and just seeing what stuck, and just as long as he looked like he was doing some cool activist stuff, it's like you were about to mention, taking 10% of the proceeds from concerts and just whatever town they were in, going to the jail and paying off prisoners' bails and just letting them go free. Like that was one of the things that he was suggesting doing. It's crazy stuff like that.
It's crazy.
He was a filthy commie. Let's just say it. Well, it's crazy because I don't know if you watched any of the Olympics last year, but during the opening ceremonies, they played. They had someone playing a piano, playing "Imagine," and I was like, "Well, one of the lyrics is Imagine there's no countries at an event where it's a competition between people belonging to different countries." And it's just like, I don't get it.
So. You've included a link here, Mr. Chris, to 13 band songs from the 1960s. This is different. This is separate from the PMRC's Filthy 15, right?
Yeah.
This
we can skip this if we want.
But it's just, I'm not going to read through it because it would take too long, but just to show you some of the band songs from the radio stations were banning certain rock and roll songs. And some of those included Fortunate Son by CCR, Masters of War by Bob Dylan, Eve of Destruction by Barry McGuire, Let's Spend the Night Together by the Rolling Stones, Louie Louie by the Kingsmen. This one is funny. It says, and perhaps the most hilarious waste of taxpayer dollars in American history, the FBI spent 2 years investigating the lyrics to Louie Louie because they thought it might contain obscenities. Plot twist, the lyrics were completely innocent. The Kingsmen just couldn't enunciate to save their lives. It's like launching a federal investigation into whether your grandmother's cookie recipe contains uranium because her handwriting is illegible. But they banned the song anyway on a lot of radio stations. White Rabbit was on the list of banned songs. A Day in the Life by the Beatles. That was banned by the BBC because they thought it was about drugs. Strange Fruit by Billie Holiday. The End by the Doors, Heroin by the Velvet Underground, God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. And that was because they had the audacity to put the word God in a pop song title, violating the apparent 11th commandment, thou shalt not mention the Lord's name in love songs. Imagine by John Lennon, and then number 1, Street Fighting Man by the Rolling Stones. So
you wonder where a lot of the either current and older left gained their hatred of the right from, not particularly the voters, but a lot of the politicians in place who are constantly making new boogie Ben after another. And then the left eventually saw opportunity in that, and they say, hey, we could play that game too, except we won't get questioned about it.
Yes.
Now they've more than lived long enough to see themselves become the villain. They're the freaking arch nemesis now.
Yes, they have. I think a lot of them, Anthony and I talk about this quite a bit, is a lot of today's leftists, some of the older ones, seem to have been so viscerally shaped by the culture wars of this time, of the 60s, that they haven't really continued, they haven't really caught up to present day, and they think we're still living in these times.
Oh, yeah. They're acting like they're dealing with the Republicans of like the 80s and 90s. Absolutely. I've noticed that. They feel like they have not shit that way, even though like there's some things that they have from there, but there's also a lot of things that they operate and move differently on. That's an objective fact, but they act like that because that's the time they're stuck in, which is really funny because a lot of those people say, well, the Republicans are stuck in the Reagan era. Well, you're stuck in the 80s and 90s too, thinking that the Republican Party is the exact same way that it is now that it was 30 to 40 years ago. So I guess I guess you're all stuck in the past, or none of you are. Pick one.
I'd say they're stuck in the late 60s.
Yeah, and I would actually agree with that too. I would actually agree.
The flower
more
child
with that.
movement, the flower power movement,
Yeah.
Keri, let's skip to the 70s because we still got a little bit of stuff to cover. Not a lot of time.
Can I do Jim Morrison Arrested in Miami?
Okay.
You're like, no. Okay, well, this is really quick. This is 16 seconds. Here we go. And I don't even need the audio. You can just see them coming on stage, taking his mic. He's like, what did I do? There we go. That's that. Okay.
Arrested a number of times. Public.
Okay, now where are we going?
I believe he showed his genitalia to people on one occasion, got arrested. So yeah.
Well, at least he didn't Gigi Allen his crowd, if you know what I mean. If you don't know, then leave it at that. If you don't know, someone in the chat, there's at least one who knows. And if you know, don't even say a word.
I don't know.
But let's just say Jim Morrison's G-Ray compared to a Gigi Allen, or even some of the Norwegian black metal guys do. Yeah.
So which one should I skip to, Mr. Chris?
Let's go to Sex Pistols.
Okay.
The first link is it's a little segment of some show where they talked about the lead up to their infamous appearance on the Bill Grundy show, where they cursed live on air, and that's what really sent them into the stratosphere in terms of popularity. But this kind of covers some of the controversies, and obviously we're not going to play the whole thing because it's like 8 minutes. But yeah, let's play a little bit of this.
The high priest of punk rock is Malcolm McLaren, owner of a punk rock fashion boutique and manager of the Sex Pistols, England's most controversial and, therefore, best-known punk rock group.
We're at the moment in a country that is economically depressed, and out of the large unemployment figures, 60% are of the age of 18. And when you've got 60% of the unemployment of the age of 18 out of work and sitting around or hanging around the streets without a music that they feel is something that can capture their imagination and inspire them to go forth, you have a whole force that is basically with very little future. The teenage kids who follow punk rock in this country, in their style and form of dress is a total reaction against the packaging of youth clothing in this country. They are really concerned now with taking any form of clothing and making a statement with it by tearing it up, writing a slogan across it that suggests something of their own particular discontent. It's real. It's part of...
And that was part of the thing also with a lot of these subgroups, subcultures that came up in various types of rock and roll. I think a lot of those people were reacting against a very consumer-driven culture, especially you think about the 1950s, where the image of the stereotypical housewife, a lot of that was put forward by advertisers trying to get people to buy refrigerators and stoves and stuff. And so when teenagers became a demographic that, you know, had some money because maybe their parents were giving them money, or that maybe they had after school jobs or something, they became a demographic that advertisers could market towards. And I think a lot of them were kind of rejecting that by doing just like Malcolm was saying in the video. But
this is them. Well, one funny thing about that clip at the beginning, did you guys notice the narrator said they're the most controversial and therefore the most popular band, which I think says a lot about today. I think a lot of musicians today are trying to be controversial in order to get attention, but what they're doing is I mean, like, what's his face who dressed up like Satan at the music awards, the guy who's like a they them now. Do you know what I'm talking about? Somebody in the chat.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Sam Smith.
Sam Smith, yes.
No.
I think he's trying so hard to get attention.
By the way, this clip does have some F-bombs. Warning.
Beethoven, Mozart, Bach and Brahms have all died. Really? What are we saying, sir?
Wonderful people.
Are they?
Oh, yes, they really turn us on.
What do they do? Well, suppose they turn other people on.
bit after it.
Which one?
Nothing. A rude word. Next question.
No. What was the rude word?
Shit.
Was it really? Good heavens, you frightened me to
Oh,
death.
all right.
What about...
So this
I
is
just love British accents.
this is them cursing on air. Was that controversial?
Yeah, super controversial. So
Yup.
they
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
they, like I said, they became really big, but also they were being banned from numerous music venues. When they later came out with the song against the Queen, what was it? What's the song? God Save the Queen, which was an anti-Queen Elizabeth song. They call her a fascist in the song, and they released it right around the time of the Queen's Silver Jubilee, which is the 25th anniversary of her taking power. And this pissed off tons of people. So BBC banned them from both television and radio. They were banned from numerous record stores. They ended up having to, they did another PR thing where they rented a boat and they went on the river Thames. Is that how you say it? Pronounce it? Thames. And they were going to play in front of Parliament, but police shut it down and arrested a few of them. And Johnny Rotten actually said that he was attacked over the song and stabbed. It's like a group of guys like followed him, beat the crap out of him and stabbed him over this song. But yeah.
We're moving on to Alice Cooper.
Yes.
Now, this is about the chicken incident.
The infamous chicken incident, which a lot of people get wrong. So here's Alice, or Mr. Vincent.
Somebody threw a chicken on stage. This was in Toronto. And I'm from Detroit. I've never been on a farm in my life, And I said, a chicken, it's got wings, it'll fly. So I threw it back in the audience. I thought it was going to fly away, in the sunset. It went right into the audience, and the audience tore it to pieces. And threw the parts back up on stage. Now, the next thing I knew, it was Alice Cooper bites head off chicken and drinks the blood and tears the face, and all this stuff, And that's what the paper said the next day. And I got a call the next day from Frank Zappa. And he says, did you do that? And I said, no. He says, well, don't tell anybody that.
That's neat. They want to sell a headline.
This you. Somebody threw a chicken on stage. This was
true. They wanted to sell headlines because they knew it sounded good. See?
Yes.
That's what mattered back then. The selling of newspapers and magazines. Once again, even if there was no merit to it, they did. So basically, they were just saying, well, okay, it didn't happen, but we're going to roll with it anyways because it sounds good and it gets people talking. They love conversation around wild things. And especially this is a time where things are starting to get more genuinely shocking.
Yeah. Alice Cooper is kind of like the godfather of shock rock.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
He is the godfather of the shock rock. Absolutely. And he's still going to this day. He's
Yeah.
currently on tour right now.
Yeah.
Currently on tour now. And it still sounds great, which is crazy because he's looked like he's been 70 for the last 40 years. But yet his voice sounds amazing. And I'm sure that has something to do with him realizing, oh, shit, I'm still young. And I still sound good. I better get my health up to speed and save my marriage. And it worked out in his favor because there are many guys who are his age or closer, or even some who are 10 years younger than him who don't sound half as good as he does.
Yeah. He for a long time had a drug and alcohol issue.
Yeah, 70s to 80s was
bad.
Very
In fact,
bad.
one of the videos put in here, you don't have to pull it up, but he's clearly on cocaine and he looks like an idiot. It's in the early 80s, but he got born again in the 80s and he's still an outspoken Christian to this day.
Yeah.
Even though there still are some fans that don't like that because there's like they think that's anti-rock and roll to be Christian and rock and roller, but most people are cool with it, I think.
I've talked to some guys, there it's interesting hearing the conversation. Some guys, I wish he wasn't, but the music's still good, so who cares? And then there's some guys who are just like, he can think whatever he wants. I'm here to enjoy his music. And there's some people like, it's really cool. It's really, I feel it's like a 33 thing. And people, as long as the music's good, and he does keep about the music. He doesn't like talking about politics. He doesn't like being preachy. He has said many times he feels it's an abuse of power. And I think that's great that he has a show that is for fans just generally of music. And I think that's a wonderful thing. We don't have enough of that on the planet.
But he also doesn't shy away from saying, his beliefs or at least,
Christianity, yeah.
yeah.
Religion
Randy,
spoken out on. He has definitely spoken out on religion and to a lesser degree humanitarianism, but straight politics, he feels like it's not his position to tell someone
Yes.
to vote for.
Yes, exactly. You guys, I'm going to take just a quick second and thank a couple people. Randy was pointing out Alice got sober decades ago and has been a Christian the same amount of time. He's a very good man. Randy Wong for $5 says, "Imagine," when we were talking about John Lennon, is a song about communism. It's the theme song of the left today. They do always put that in their maudlin videos today.
It was during, remember COVID, and a bunch of celebrities did that video. Where they all recorded themselves singing it.
That.
And I was like, again, the lyrics saying, imagine there's no heaven at a time when a lot of people thought they were going to die because of a virus. Like, people are...
Imagine sitting in the nursing home and not being your family not being allowed to come see you in the hospital. ADL for $1.99 says, "Forget rock. TikTok is now the devil's instrument." That's what the preachers are probably
Chinese
saying today. Yeah. Pirate Tomsky for £5. Thank you, Pirate. Says, "This is how Keri acted the first time she saw Anthony play live." Oh, like the women screaming? The Beatlemania. Randy Wallen for $10. Thank you, Randy. Says, "Best example of Elvis today was Charlie Kirk. He gave youth an avenue for rebellion from the secular world. He attracted millions and greatly affected culture. No one else has come close." That's an interesting comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Not doing music though, but cultural impact. Yeah, I could see that. Pirate Tomsky for £10 says, "All teenagers rebel. They have to, as they are actually oppressed by parents' rules that are used to civilize them. Music is just something that can be easily blamed to make the parents feel better."
Yeah, and that's true. That is absolutely true. Because kids know that they have limits with what they do, so they need to find the next thing that they can control that you can't from them. So they're always going to look to the next thing, and the more you try to control another thing, they're just going to shift over to the next thing. So it just becomes that cycle of the next thing and the next thing. That's why if you tell them to like come home at this time, they get resistant. Well, I'm already out. You can't do anything about it. And that's why they come home later.
Brian, I can't say your name. Brian Austin, 49.99. Thank you for the super chat. Everything we can do. The military.
Hey, Keri, your audio's muddled again for some reason.
I was thinking it was just me.
It wasn't just me. Okay. I'm like, oh, okay. As soon as he spoke, I realized, okay, I'm not crazy.
What's it doing?
Oh, that's better now. It was like really muffly and muddled. And
okay.
That's better.
Everything was new back in the 50s, but I can't overlook the military and propaganda that controlled the narrative back in the day. I love the conversation and the chat is cool. If you want to see something really cool, look up and listen to Sean Iane. Sean, I don't know that person.
Maybe that's Lane.
Yeah.
Sean Lane. Thank you for the suggestion. And then Randy Wallen for $10 says, "All I wanted was a Pepsi." Oh, that commercial.
Oh, there's more to that commercial. It's this hat. So this band wrote a song called "Institutionalized," and one of the lyrics in the song was, "All I wanted was a Pepsi, just a Pepsi, and she wouldn't give it to me." It's from the band Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh, I thought he was
album. The song's
something
called
else.
"Institutionalized." So no, it's been a running joke since that song came out in the mid 80s, 40 plus years later. That's what he's referring to my hat. That's all that's being referred to. So clearly he knows who Suicidal is.
By the way, when I saw your hat, I wanted to comment because I'm going to age myself, but I saw them on the Clash of the Titans tour.
With Slayer and Megadeth?
Yeah.
Slayer,
Megadeth,
and Alice in Chains.
Alice in Chains.
Yes.
Yeah, they're the opening band. That's
and
when
Anthrax.
Alice in Chains are so small that they were opening for Slayer.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what I was about to say. And it was 1991, and I was like, I think I was like 15, and this band called Alice in Chains was the first band, and nobody was there, and I got to say they were awesome. Anyways, it was. I just thought about that when I saw your
Oh, that's cool. I
Jealous.
wish I was at that tour. I wish I was at. I love all those bands, even Alice in Chains. And it's funny to hear all the stories about how a lot of people didn't like them, even though the bands on the tour liked them. But it ended up working out in their favor. Alice in Chains became bigger than most of the bands throughout time eventually.
And he was the greatest rock singer.
Lane Staley.
My opinion.
Yeah. I agree, Anthony.
Yeah. Good.
Randy Wallen for $10. Someone take his pants off and the Raptors knock. Rock is dead. They say, long live rock. What is that from?
I don't know.
We don't know that one, Randy.
I think Randy's writing the song.
Randy for $2. American Hot Wax. Great 70s movie about Freed. Okay, it must be from that.
Freed, yeah.
Thank you. And then, okay, we just have three more. Ryan Osseras for $4.99 says, chat and panel. Does anyone remember Sun Ra's comments on music?
No.
Space is the place. Space is the place. Didn't he do that?
I don't know. We'll have to look that one up. I don't know that one. Also, Ryan Osseras for $9.99 would love Keri's opinion on Gloria Steinem. We have so much to get through. I don't want to take too much time, but I think she's a very misguided person. That's all.
CIA asked it. Yeah.
And then Curmudgeon for $10 says Elvis was railroaded by wokes. The shoeshine story was fake. No one came forward, and NPR had to apologize. They tried the same thing with Ty Cobb, accused him of being racist with no evidence.
Yeah, I heard about Ty Cobb.
I didn't know about that one either. Okay.
All right, let's gotta get some.
Where should we move to now?
Kiss. Go to the second one. Yes.
How
and R.I.P. Ace Frehley. Lead guitarist who just passed last week.
Did you before we go on? Did you hear? Apparently, John 5 spoke out about Ace Frehley. In case you know, John 5 used to play for Zombie, and Manson now plays for Motley Crue. Apparently, Frehley was so happy to know that Donald Trump said his last name correctly at the Kennedy Center. So Frehley was really happy. He's like, someone finally said my last name. John 5 spoke out about this recently. That Frehley was just like so happy. It happened to be someone that who he liked as well.
So this is one of the first interviews that Kiss did. This is pretty funny.
Which one is Kiss? I'm kidding.
That lady, the hair, that's frightening. That's shocking.
I'm really just a member of Kiss. You know? Who dreamed this up, this get-up? We all did. How many members? There are 4 members. You know, your audience really looks appetizing. Oh, really? Are you a bat? Yes. Actually, what I am is evil incarnate. And some of those cheeks and necks look really good. What? Why the costume? Why the costume?
Gene is being a capitalist. That's what he's being a cap. He knows how to sell the image very well. He's kind of like a pro wrestler in a way. He knows how to sell a character very well. It's almost unfortunate that he wasn't like shredded, because he'd be a very good villain wrestler with his character. He knows how to generate heat.
Yes.
Very well.
He is one of the most annoying people on the planet, though. He's just become so he's become so like just presumptuous and full of himself.
How so?
He's just real. He just talks down, like in his recent interviews. He just talks down to people, like he kind of knows everything, and everyone needs to stop talking when Gene Simmons is talking. Don't interrupt my thoughts.
Always,
you know, he's
that's always.
But I do. I was so much. I was gonna say this book, Nothing to Lose, man. This is a great book. Have you read this book?
I've not read that one.
Oh man, it's so funny because in this book, you know, they were always to those costumes. Mm-hmm. They were committed from day one.
Oh yes,
they were playing shows. They were playing shows like in upstate New York, and like these little like restaurant bar places. Like their families would come, and they were like full outfits and makeup, and like
And only the parents are there.
Yeah. And they were like jamming out in like these little clubs in Manhattan. Like 8 people were there, and they had like the the smoke going, and like just like they were like, we're gonna do. You got to commit to the whole thing the whole way, and how like they were always chasing that hit though. They worked so hard on the road. They were a super hardworking band, super pro. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley were clean. But I don't know. But I think Ace Frehley had a drinking problem. I'm not sure. I know the other 2 guys who had drinking problems and did the rock and roll thing. But anyways, it's a great book that shows just their trajectory to stardom when they finally got that hit. I think it was Rock and Roll All Night, and that just catapulted them to arena rock status. But before that, it was just they were just going town to town and just chasing after it. And there's a lot of stories about them, but.
So did they face a lot of controversy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Kiss.
Yeah.
It was just a Tuesday for them to have controversry.
But people knew they were
even
like,
just by existing and breathing.
But what's funny is there was an entire town like in Michigan that so they had kept like they were touring and they were doing all these, they were working super hard, and they kept getting letters from this small town in Michigan saying how much the kids at the high school loved Kiss and they wanted them to come play their high school. And so they showed up at and Gene Simmons or one of the guys got this idea, is like, we should film this. So they had a film crew as they arrived. This is before they had a hit. This is when they were just still like just working it, trying to get something going. And as they pulled into town, the whole town was dressed in their favorite Kiss makeup. I mean, like the students, the parents, the football coach, the football team, and they got to the high school auditorium, and all the kids everybody was Kiss makeup. It's really cool. I haven't even seen the video. I know but they talk about it in the book. It's amazing, and it was just this like wholesome moment. They were like taking pictures with the kids. They were just being themselves, it was really cool. I think really cool description.
No, even as crazy and snotty as Gene Simmons is, all those guys, Once and Kisses in our band, where there are various views in the band, some right, some left. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're going to agree with some guys, you're going to disagree with some, but they're still a people's band in that sense, where if you're there for the music, you're there for the music. And that's not a bad thing because, well, that's how it should be. So Kiss has that, and that's something you can not really say about many bands anymore, even to this very day, unfortunately.
Yeah, I actually wasn't a big fan of their music at all. I'm actually not.
I only heard a few hits, but there's one album I heard. I heard the album Destroyer. I thought that was a good album. I think that was their 4th or 5th album. I thought Destroyer was good, but that's the only full album I've heard.
I do love Gene Simmons for discovering Van Halen.
Oh yeah,
that was
dude. Thank you for that. By the way.
Anyway, sorry, we keep no more digressing.
No, that's fine. I didn't know they discovered Van Halen.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
A little bit of this because we still got.
This was about a religious controversy involving Kiss.
The rock group called Kiss. Dixie Watley has this report on the band that's not getting older. It's getting weirder.
It's been 10 years since Kiss first walked on stage, spitting blood, breathing fire, and promoting themselves as the loudest band in the world. With a new album to sell, Kiss has been on the road again, but their 100-city tour has met with controversy reminiscent of the 60s.
Well, it might be the devil, or it might be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody.
There were picket lines in Nashville, a record-breaking protest in Little Rock, a standing-room-only city council meeting in Corpus Christi, and headlines all over the country: Minneapolis, Dubuque, Chattanooga, and Bismarck, North Dakota. The protesters are mainly religious groups who have been trying unsuccessfully to get Kiss concerts stopped because, they say, Kiss promotes the worship of Satan.
This is one of the ways that the enemy is coming in to try to engulf the minds of these teenagers and win them over.
I wonder how these guys would feel to know that Kiss is all about like performing the national anthem of America live, knowing that that's something that they actually do for some of their shows. I wonder how they feel knowing that now. Like,
right?
What?
There's just so much of this. When you pull back the curtain, it's just like these guys are not evil people.
No, they're really not.
All these metal guys,
Yeah, but
Yeah,
a lot of that jock stuff.
A lot of it is a gimmick. Like Guar is a gimmick. Ghost, as I mentioned earlier, they're again. Are there probably some guys that are actually that way? Yeah, probably in the Norwegian black metal area. But if you're talking like the traditional heavy wave or the hard rock, most of them it's just they know it's fun and it's all literally for show. A lot of them are not like pretending to not be there. Honestly, yeah, it's just the show. That's all.
Yeah, and a lot of it was very tongue in cheek.
Ozzy
would do shows where he'd have like medieval castles behind him, and he'd have like midgets run out all over the stage, and it was just so goofy. And it was hard to understand how people wouldn't see that it's humor, and they were just taking stuff from movies. Like Alice Cooper was inspired by horror movies from the 50s and 60s, and he wanted to incorporate that to a show. And so it's just introducing theatrics to the
like theater, or like Nick said, it's like wrestling. It's a character. Really quickly, this was when I got to meet Guar at Bonnaroo.
Oh, nice! I almost went to that Bonnaroo. A roommate I was living with at the time, her and I almost went. We wanted to go, and our schedules at my workplace couldn't align. I was so mad at myself for not going because, Guar is such a fun time. I remember like they drew lines on my white shirt, and then they wrote "cut head off here." Which is as on brand with Guar as it gets. And that is the most indiscriminate band of all time ever.
Yeah, I think they were shooting slime into the audience that night. I can't remember.
That's every show. And I love it.
Okay, we are
Go
ahead.
real quick. If we're moving on from Kiss, I'm not sure, but I just want to tell this story about when I met Gene Simmons's aunt and uncle. So I was living in New York for a while at the early 2000s, and I was playing piano and music in different like retirement homes. And so I was playing. I was in Flushing, Queens, and I was playing piano in this assisted living center. And after I was done, and I used to have real long hair. I had in a ponytail, and I wasn't wearing glasses or a hat. And this old couple comes up to me and is like, "You remind us of our nephew. His name's Gene." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And they were like, it's like, "Do you know Gene Simmons from Kiss?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah." They're like, you just look just like Gene, but he's a nice boy. He's a nice boy. You hear all the things about Kiss and their blood, but no, he's a nice boy. But you remind us of Gene. I was like, wow, that's so cool. I just met Gene Simmons' aunt and uncle. It was funny.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, we are finally moving on to Ozzy. What is this?
R.I.P. Ozzy.
Oh, man,
So this is a 1982 news clip. Is this the one we're starting with, Mr. Chris?
Yeah, show a little bit. I put the timestamps in there, but since we're short on time, just play a little bit of this part, and then we'll skip to 4:47.
1969 through 1978, Ozzy was the driving force behind the demonic Black Sabbath. A group that had 7 gold records. Not bad, considering Osbourne's qualifications.
I can't read music. I don't even know a Keri singing. I can't play an instrument either.
He makes me think of Spinal Tap there, where they're like, "Jazz is all the wrong notes."
It's a big seller, And all I'm doing is putting Halloween on the road every night.
There are those who say that Ozzy carried Halloween a bit too far last year when, at a record business executive meeting, he bit the head off a dove.
The original idea was I had bought these 2 doves to throw up in the air when I walked in to make this sort of and so I thought, well, throw the carcass on the table. Which they all just went, freaked them out, I mean, that's the big deal. I mean, it's just a dove.
He is the most romantic man I've ever met in my life.
I love the editors. They knew what they were doing.
That was chopped up to butter that up to make him look very crazy, and it worked. especially with the face. The face. Oh man.
What's the big deal?
Is it funny that for the last 20 years he was living on the planet, he could sing better than he could speak? Probably just because he knew what he was going to say versus what do I actually say when I speak.
Well, he was still even like a terrible alcoholic during when they were doing the Osbourne show. I thought he had kicked all that during that time, but man, he was still like terrible alcoholic. I mean,
oh yeah. Horrible.
I mean, even during imagine like extending all the way back to like Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz and all that when they were recording all that. I mean, if you listen to stories about him, I mean, he was just like, I'm sorry, but he was pissing himself in the vocal booth because he was just putting down Jack Daniels. I mean, it was just awful stuff, like just terrible, terrible stories.
Yeah, he was basically carried around like a child, basically.
Yeah.
By his solo band and his Black Sabbath band and Sharon and management. In some ways, he was kind of babied.
Yeah.
Because of his behavior, but because he had the charisma, everyone kind of sucked it up because they knew what he could bring for audiences. So it shows you how much people are willing to sacrifice when someone is a hit amongst an audience.
And that wasn't the first time he bit the head off of something. So there's another incident at a concert where someone threw a bat on stage. Now Ozzy says that he thought it was a toy bat, so he picked it up and decided to bite its head off. Turns out it was a real bat, and so he had to get a bunch of rabies shots after the show just for that incident. And so word of this spread, and so part of the freak out over Ozzy's music was the idea that he was like killing animals on stage and biting the heads off of all these different creatures, and it just got crazier and crazier and crazier.
Well, you know how Ozzy Osbourne bit the head off a bat?
Yeah.
Not to be outdone, Chuck Norris bit the head off Batman.
I
had to throw that in. Chuck Norris Chuck.
Go Chuck.
And of course, I didn't put a link in there about this, but he peed on part of the Alamo in the 80s.
Oh,
yeah. He actually got banned from San Antonio for like 10 years.
Yep.
And eventually they allowed him back. Yeah. He peed on part of the Alamo because he was just obviously drunk. But eventually they lifted that ban and they had a big welcoming thing. And so it was all good. But yeah, at that time, they were not happy.
And we also can't talk about Ozzy without mentioning one of the greatest guitar players of all time, Randy Rhoads. And Randy Rhoads.
Zach Wild's great too.
Jakey Lee, man. Jakey Lee. Oh, I love Jakey Lee. Oh, so good. Though Randy does get credit for playing on my favorite Ozzy album, Diary of a Madman. But Tony Iommi, though, he may not have the solos. He's got the riffs.
I think I love Randy so much because he did so many things as a guitar player, but also his personal life was just was like the yin to the yang of what Ozzy was. Because Randy was so like he was sober, and he was he was so committed to music. I mean, he was so committed to being the greatest all-around guitar player, not just electric guitar player, with what he did for Ozzy and what all those great songs that he wrote. I mean, all those famous riffs that really, at a time, came when Ozzy was he was coming out of Black Sabbath. He was trying to establish his solo career. He was really at a very a pivotal point of his career where he didn't know what was, he needed to make a solo career happen. And thank God he met Randy Rhoads, because Randy Rhoads came along and great writer, great composer, great soloist, and a great student of music. But he was also, he just really wanted to be a great classical guitar player. And he would in every town, he would find a classical guitar teacher and he would take lessons, like when they were in their downtime, and he'd go take a lesson from a different guitar player, classical guitar teacher. But, I just think that was such like spiritually too for Ozzy in a way that was like really, it was really positive for him to have Randy there, someone who was like completely sober and just committed and was picked, like you said before, like someone who was picking up the pieces musically for Ozzy, because, a lot of what I did hear was in Randy Rhoads' biography was that, Ozzy was, pissing himself in the vocal booth, downing all this Jack Daniels, and just, he'd pass out and then he'd go to sleep, and Randy would stay up all night doubling his solos, rewriting parts of songs. I mean, he was just the workaholic, and he's what made those albums perfect and those songs perfect, which is what catapulted Ozzy into his solo career, which made it possible for guys like Zakk Wylde to come along and all these other later guitar players. Because if it hadn't been for Randy, he wouldn't have had a career like that.
Do you think he's the greatest guitar player of all time?
I don't know if he's. I mean, as far as like metal guitar players go, I mean, man, he's up there. I mean, there was always that Van Halen, Randy Rhoads in California. There was that Van Halen, Randy Rhoads rivalry because they were both coming up at the same time. Because Randy Rhoads started Quiet Riot, and Quiet Riot was playing on the Sunset Strip at the same time as Van Halen was. So they had that rivalry going. Both of those guitar players, I think, are pretty equal and in completely different ways. I mean, Eddie Van Halen was just a monster. He was like a Frankenstein, like just crazy freak of nature. And then you had Randy Rhoads, who just brought everything that he heard from classical music, from Bach, from everything, and he put it into rock and roll. I think the greatest example is Mr. Crowley. His solo on Mr. Crowley is just, that's like, we could all learn something from that as guitar players. I know that's when I was growing up listening to metal. That was one of the first solos I ever heard, and I was just like, "Oh my!" This is. I want to play like that, And I think he is one of the greats. I don't know if he's the greatest, but he's up there. He's definitely up there, and I think a lot of metal guitar players would agree with that.
What about you, Nick?
Well, what about me?
What are your top?
Oh God! Oh, we'll be here for 9 years.
Okay,
I'm not going to do that to you. I couldn't even narrow it down to 10.
Okay, so we're going to skip past some of the, there were lots of controversies related to Ozzy. He had some fans who died at a concert. He was blamed for another fan's suicide. But we're going to play, should I play this clip about Satanism, Mr. Chris?
Let's go down to Satanic Panic section.
Okay.
It kind of deals with similar thing. But the first link there, so this is about the infamous Stairway to Heaven being played backwards. I don't know if many people heard of that when they were kids, but apparently you should play it backwards. There's secret satanic messages in there. And so this is a clip about that. But a lot of it was kind of fueled by Jimmy Page's interest in the occult. Like, I believe he bought Aleister Crowley's house and he was kind of studying him. And so a lot of people thought he was channeling some kind of dark energy or magic into Led Zeppelin's music.
So we're moving on from Ozzy, who was accused of Satanism, and then we're moving to Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Okay.
To show them what I'm going to do, I've actually taken the exact piece of tape that you just heard it off of, and I've reverse thread the machine, and I'm going to play that exact piece of tape backwards now. Okay, just to
that you've not doctored
I have
it
not
in any
doctored it in
This is in 1983. They're playing this backwards.
any way. All right, let's go ahead and start. Okay.
I heard something there.
What did you hear? Oh, no. Okay.
It's like a Rorschach, basically, they suggest. And you're like, oh, I guess I kind of see that. Or like modern art. Like it'll literally be like a piece of trash on the wall. And they're like, well, this represents world peace. And people are like, oh, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Didn't Motley Crue go through something like that too?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I seem to remember that.
So I want to show this report because Nick is.
Oh, I know this clip very, very well. I could, yeah. Let's go down this well.
Tampa, Florida is being hailed as the center of death metal in the United States. It's where established bands and up-and-comers are attracting a horde of eager fans. While most bands boast no religious affiliations, some, like Morbid Angel, are self-confessed Satanists.
Does the devil work through you? There is no devil. I'm the devil.
Well, who is Satan?
I'm Satan.
How does that affect the kids, do you think? Do they ask you about it?
No, because we don't really go on about it too much. I mean, I express my anger through my lyrics, but as far as the kids are concerned, most kids are just as disgusted as we are about things. And we happen to be a vent for that frustration.
Don't play too much. Don't want to get a strike.
So yeah, this is Morbid Angel. They're from Florida, and well, still are. And yeah, they sang about the Necronomicon and stuff like that. And they knew how to get a reaction out of people. Interestingly enough, their drummer Pete Sandoval, Cuban guy, is a born again Christian, and I'm not joking about it. He is, even with the lyrical content. I don't know if David Vincent, that's who that was, a singer bassist. I don't know if he feels that way, but is he well spoken now the way he is then? Yeah. He is definitely a wise man, a very wise man. He definitely, once again, he knows how to get people reacting, and he definitely I'm trying to think here how to word this here. He knows how to get people shocked at the time. It worked, and he got a lot of people talking. And as far as like the actual Satanist, I don't think he is an actual Satanist. Now, there was one band in Florida with one guy who actually was a Satanist. His name was Glenn Benton. He was in a band called Deicide. He was I don't know if you know about, but he is this guy who had this. He had this. The type of metal you use to like make like a horseshoe out of and burn it. He had that done to his forehead, but made an inverted cross of it. It was really freaky, insane. And yeah, Glenn Ben was like the real deal. He doesn't do that stuff anymore because apparently I found out he had to like win custody of his son, which he actually did. And so he stopped doing that. So I don't know if he still feels that way, but he stopped doing that stuff. Once fatherhood came to his life, there was no more of that. But yeah, Glenn Ben was probably the actual extremist who actually felt that way. But guys like Morbid Angel, it was a gig. And for some guys, it was just, we're telling short stories and songs. And not even all those bands sung about those things. Some bands even sung about political stuff. Some sung about fantasy stuff. Some sung about getting into fights. Some had tongue-in-cheek like humor. Like it was all very, I know it's a overused word, but it really was lyrically very diverse then. Not all bands were treated equal or seen equal or even saying equally about the same thing. Even regardless of how people feel about the genre, they all had different things that they sang about. But yeah, if there was one actual guy who was the scary deal about it, was Glenn Benton from Deicide. Yeah, definitely look into him if you want to see how dark that guy got in the 90s. He was out
a real deal.
Oh yeah. Go look at photos of how he looked in the 90s too. Like he was a whole other thing.
I found a picture of him with his upside down cross burned into his head, and yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then you see him now. You could tell it's faded off the marks faded off his forehead now, and he's super balding. But yeah, the 90s were interesting. That's for sure.
Well, this next clip is you've labeled it, Chris, as a Jimmy Swaggart preaching against Christian rock.
Yeah, he's
now,
pretty obviously he's talking about Striper too. Even though he doesn't.
Oh yeah, I know about this. Yeah, go on.
Oh my! I don't know about this. Let's watch it. Swaggart.
So-called Christian radio stations are blasting out contemporary Christian music that is indistinguishable from worldly rock. The voice of the dragon.
Indistinguishable. The lyrics are totally like "to hell with the devil," you know.
And it's also like, "God, I will follow you because you died for me."
Yes,
it's like that. Those are Striper's lyrics, you know.
There's a Striper song called "The Way, the Truth, the Life." We all know a lot of us know where that statement comes from when they're talking about Jesus. They also have a song called Yahweh. I mean, it could be Soldiers on Command. It couldn't be any more obvious how upfront they are. They even give out Bibles at the end of every show. They brand it with the Striper logo on them, so that in hopes that people don't toss them out. But yeah, they really are open, and they are all the way with it to a T. They're not just saying we're guys who happen to be Christian, but we just happen to be in band. No, they emphasize we are a Christian band. There's no one foot out about. They're the opposite of Deicide. They are all the way in on Christianity.
Yeah.
If you read the comments underneath this video, it's full of people saying how Striper played a part in bringing them to Christ and how it helped strengthen their walk with Christ. And so there are many people disagreeing with Swaggart when he's basically saying that it's leading people away from Jesus when it's not.
By the way, this is before it came out that Jimmy Swaggart had been frequenting prostitutes, and he was caught on camera with a prostitute, and later issued his infamous tearful apology. I have sinned.
If their name was Stripper, he probably would have liked them.
The harder they signal.
Yes.
Rock addicts who tune in accidentally have been known to call in and request particular rock recordings, and they are surprised when they're told it's a Christian station.
Okay, that's enough of him.
It's like with philanthropists or like people who virtue signal too. I mean, it's like they're people are talking loud to cover something up. I don't know. I think generally.
Yes, I think so. I've got this article pulled up. Now, this wasn't on your list, Mr. Chris. Instead of the wiki, unless there's something on the wiki you wanted me to pull up.
No, it's just the same thing as the list.
Same thing. Okay. This is the what you mentioned, Nick. It's the Filthy 15 PMRC. It was a Parents Music Resource Center. Mm-hmm. So 30 years ago, they made a playlist of what they deemed the most offensive music at the time. It was dubbed the Filthy 15. Mm-hmm. And this served as an example of how PMRC thought albums should be rated in a way similar to the MPAA, in a way similar to films. But instead of issuing a general PG and R designation, the committee, on which former Second Lady Tipper Gore famously served, suggested content-based ratings: X for profane or sexually explicit lyrics, O for occult references, DA for lyrics about drugs and alcohol, and V for violent content. Ultimately, they convinced labels to affix potentially offensive albums with the warning stickers the world has grown to love. Parental explicit lyrics. Let me tell you, this is so popular that when I worked with comedians, one of the comedians I worked with, Margaret Cho, it wasn't rated explicit, but we put that on the artwork anyway. People would put that on the artwork anyway, so you knew this was like explicit content. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
because
yeah.
It's a marketing thing by that time.
At that point, they like Gore. That was Gore's compromise. Since she realized she had no legitimate case, it was okay. Well, then, could you at least do this? Just to make it feel like I got something out of it, and that's where that label came from. But then that label just ultimately became a selling point for people.
Yes, it completely backfired.
This is what I think created the extreme culture of the 90s. I put extreme with an X, where everything had like an edge to it, because you saw the effort to censor music, not just rock music, but rap music in particular. And that just supercharged everything, and it was reflected in TV show intros and advertisements and children's cartoons even. And it made it exciting at the time.
Well, once again, I said earlier, much of the show, why have the censored version when you can have the uncensored version? Mm-hmm. No one's going to want it. No one.
Just quickly, some of the people on the list, what Judas Priest was on there, Prince, Madonna, Motley Crue, Sheena Easton. Sheena Easton's on there. Wasp.
I remember those guys.
No, there's a funny part about the Wasp one, okay? So I don't know if you know, but Dee Snider did a speech to, I guess, represent the Filthy 15. Originally, it was supposed to be Blackie Lawless from Wasp, but he could end up doing the counter argument against Congress. So it ended up being Dee Snider was actually a last-minute fill-in. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dee Snider is a mixed bag when it comes to his opinions, and he did have a very well-articulated argument on that day in Congress. If Blackie had been the one that gone there, he would have put Dee Snider's argument to shame. Holy crap! Is what's his name? Blackie Lawless, a well-spoken man. Look into Blackie Lawless. That dude, whew, man, that guy was way ahead of his time. Still ahead of his time.
I'm really shocked that Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Relax isn't on that song or that list. The filthy, filthy song.
No, if you look deep, you'll find there's so much more actual filthy stuff. They just probably found the 15 easiest ones to attach that list to, and not what actually is the true filthiest. Because if you looked at, once again, stuff like, as I mentioned, or Deicide, or if you looked at a band like Cannibal Corpse, where they sing more about like gore-based horror, you could say those bands are far more filthier. They make bands like these look not filthy, but once again, it was all about who was convenient for them to attack. Also, they were popular. That's another thing I remember. It wasn't who was actually filthy, it was who was actually popular, and they can interpret as filthy. It's all about the framing here.
This was Dee Snider.
Yep.
The testimony you mentioned. You guys, I'm not sure if my sound's working, if it stopped
It
again.
is.
Did you hear that?
No,
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, it's not working on my clip. So let me pull this one down. If you wanna queue up the Guns N' Roses section, Mystery Chris, or talk about that, I'm just gonna pop out and pop back in.
Oh yeah. So I put in some links to Axl Rose and his crazy behaviors, how he basically incited a riot in 1991, which there were a lot of riots involving Guns N' Roses concerts. Very weird. But I put up a clip of him basically freaking out at someone taking a photo of him.
Was that in St. Louis?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw them in Dallas. I think it was either the show after that, like right after that, or 2 shows right after that, but it was they were on tour with Skid Row. Skid Row was opening for them, and Axl talked like, man, he went on this like 20-minute talk about it. It was kind of annoying. We're all just like, dude, just play. He was like 2 hours late, you know.
Oh
yeah,
God, 2 hours
like,
late.
but I was like
It's
16
so
or
sad.
17. I was like, I don't care. I just want to see Guns N' Roses.
But he's still doing it. Like I saw a report like last week of him freaking out on stage for some weird, crazy reason, and he's just throwing a tantrum. He's a giant baby.
Yeah.
The irony, because like they're
he's
very
still a
anti-Trump,
diva.
and so I think during the first Trump administration, they had a big baby that looked like Trump, the inflatable baby that they put on stage while they performed. And I was like, the irony of you acting like a child.
Yeah,
Trump's a joke.
Axl, I was gonna call him Axl Cornrows. Axl Rose. It's funny enough, he actually did have cornrows at one point, but Axl Rose, yeah, he never stopped being a diva. One of my brother saw him on the reunion tour that they did, and he said Alice in Chains blew them away. And he said because Axl Rose's voice is gone.
Yep. Him and David Lee Roth, they can't sing anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Stop.
So this is some news coverage of this riot.
In just 15 minutes, the scene at Riverport turned from a concert to a riot. More than 60 people, including a dozen police officers, were injured. Some received broken bones. It took more than an hour and 400 police officers to get the riot under control.
This was as bad and as violent as any as I've ever seen, and I've been involved in several of them, and this was as bad as any of them.
The trouble started at about 11:15 last night, 90 minutes into a concert by the band Guns N' Roses, seen here in another performance. Lead singer Axl Rose apparently spotted someone with a camera in the audience, and when the camera wasn't confiscated, Rose went in after it.
I'm going to stop it there. We have quite a bit left, Mystery Chris. If we were to try and cover what we have remaining in like 15 minutes, do you think we'd be able to get through what are the highlights?
We can skip over some stuff. And so, that's pretty much on the Guns N' Roses, because there was another riot the following year in Montreal. And then there was actually one in 2002 in Vancouver. So skip over that. Because of time, we'll have to cut out some of the grunge stuff. I want to talk about the grunge stuff because I love grunge. But briefly, there was controversy over Soundgarden's video Jesus Christ Pose, where it was banned from MTV because of the imagery, and people thought it was, blasphemous. But Chris Cornell explained that he was more mocking the persecution complex that a lot of celebrities had. And so that was the first one. And then briefly, I put up some links. We don't pull them up, but links about Nirvana's "Rape Me" song. How that created a lot of controversy. A lot of people thought that it was promoting rape, but it wasn't. It was tongue in cheek, and it came out around the time of Take Back the Night thing. Like, were you part of that, Keri? That movement?
Oh yes, I was a
date rape. Like, you have to tell men it's bad.
I hate to say I went to several Take Back the Night rallies in college. Yes, there were Soundgarden. You said that I didn't know about their video "Jesus Christ Pose" being banned, but I used to see their other video for Black Hole Sun when I was at my science and math boarding school. It would come on back when music television played music videos, and I thought it was just evil and dark. It made me just, I don't know. It really grossed me out. I can't really explain why.
The melting face and ice cream dripping out of that girl's mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably it. Melting face.
But yeah, it was that, and I briefly put in something about 9 Inch Nails Closer video that was banned for the nudity, and it looked like a snuff film. Yeah, 9 Inch Nails still going strong. But
So
and now
what
we're
is
going to get to the main thing. The 90s.
Marilyn Manson, this news report.
And so, again, we can only play a little bit because I put in several timestamps, so we don't have time to play all of it, but just play a little bit of
Tell
it.
me what this is, though.
So this is a news, I think it's 97, about Marilyn Manson, who is a 90s shock rocker, and I never really liked Marilyn Manson's music. There's like one song I liked, but I didn't like the music, and I never really liked his shtick because, yeah, he was doing the shock rock thing, but it was more like, it was very antagonistic towards Christians, and I was like, there was no humor in it. Unlike, say, Alice Cooper and Kiss and even Ozzy, like, it was very tongue-in-cheek and silly, but with Marilyn Manson, who's taking himself way too seriously. Like, there was moments on stage where he'd pull out a Bible and just rip it up and throw it into the audience and stuff. And he was like, well, I'm trying to make people think. And I'm like, is it making people think? Like, are you really changing people's minds? Like, ripping up a book that's very sacred to them? Like, I don't get it.
They want you to come here tonight. They'd rather you be in church. You are in church,
Welcome to the altar of Marilyn Manson, the most controversial rock and roll act on the road today, coming soon to a sold-out arena near you.
Better not watch Elvis.
Remember when they said Elvis was satanic?
They had no idea what was coming. Oh my gosh. Or maybe they did. Wow.
Of course, he was. Go ahead.
I wonder if he's mellowing out with age too, though, and we're just yet to see that, because I did see that he covered one of Johnny Cash's Christian songs. It may have been "The Man Comes Around," or it may have been, there's another one. Somebody in the chat might know, but he covered a Johnny Cash Christian song, and I was thinking, wow, that's kind of interesting to hear him doing that, and I liked his cover. So.
Maybe
Brian Warner, that's his real name, by the way. He's a character. I mean, that's for sure. And he always has been. I even saw photos of him when he was a teenager. The dude always looked like a cartoon character. He's one. I can really put my finger on what his whole deal is with how serious or unserious. I mean, I'll put it this way: song wise, hit or miss for me. Is he stupid? No. Is he smart? Yeah. Does his smart have a lid on it? Also, yes. I don't know. I really can't put. But I do know, like, he did a tour. God, I think it was in the 90s. With Alice in the very still 10 years into being an open born again Christian, and it's not the first or last time he's toured with someone in a band who is openly that way. A lot of people don't know, but even Tom Araya, the singer of Slayer, he's a devout Catholic. And I know it's very ironic considering that they have sung about war, blood, death, Satan, and Tom Araya from Slayer is a hardcore Catholic. And he's done a few tours with Slayer. And that's, I don't know, maybe it's just that stuff he doesn't think about it. It's just more of a show's a show, who I play with. I don't know. But I don't know. There's got to be some level of open-mindedness to him. Where? I don't know. But I don't know. Or maybe he just doesn't care and someone in management handles it all. Who knows?
Yeah, he's not dumb. Yeah, he's a pretty smart guy. But Alice, I was watching interviews of him where he was kind of defending, his, performing and even in friendship, because he's friends with
Yes.
Marilyn Manson, and he talks about how they are miles apart theologically,
Yes.
but on the personal level, there's things that they do have in common. And I think he said the first time he went on tour with Marilyn Manson had just broken up with his wife, I think Dita Von Teese. They divorced. And he said that Marilyn Manson was like really sad about that. And he was actually wanted to get advice from Alice Cooper. And so I think Alice Cooper sees this as an opportunity to kind of help guide someone and be a kind of positive influence on someone that, clearly, some things went wrong in his past, because for the longest time he was an alcoholic. Marilyn Manson, of course, Alice Cooper is alcoholic as well. But yeah, it always seemed to me watching interviews with Marilyn Manson that he wasn't a very happy guy.
Yeah.
No, he was almost canceled too by a girl who tried pulling an Amber Heard on him as well a few
Yes.
years
Evan
ago.
Rachel Wood.
And he actually got out of the situation. It turned out to be BS. And regardless of how we feel on his music, even if we absolutely hate it, you shouldn't have to be put in that position, especially if the situation's false. But he got put into it, and that was the worst part about it. Everyone rolled with it, even though there was no evidence, no merit. People took her word for it and ran with it, and they crushed his career for a few years. He had a whole tour lined up in Alma, and all of it was put on the back burner so he could attend to this case. Who knows how much debt it plunged him in? But at least I guess the stress of it caused him to lose some weight, because he was packing on the pounds. Like I don't know if McDonald's became like a late night sensation in his life in the 2010s, but it must have been the stress that got him to chop back down, or maybe he discovered what exercise is. I don't know.
When is he going to become really commercialized, like Snoop Dogg? Doing. I want to see him with McDonald's commercials, like Marilyn Manson bites the top off a burger.
Or being in terrible movies.
We're not far. We're probably not far from there. We're probably not.
I want to eat you like a hamburger. No, that time is hell. Okay, we have to see this. Just a little bit of this one that you queued up, Mystery Chris. This is about a report about Marilyn Manson's fans.
Of its influence on young minds. They voiced their fear and their fury on a local radio show this morning.
I'm just thoroughly disgusted with this group totally, like I'm sure a lot of other people are. And like you said, other people have said, they, to me, are a hate group. And I put them right up there with the KKK, skinheads. They're just out to recruit others, to hurt people.
Marilyn Manson foes say they only have to point to these kids to prove how dangerous the music can be. Rod Farrell and his followers in the Western Kentucky vampire cult are huge Marilyn Manson fans. The accused murderers have said Marilyn Manson's music touches something dark in them. And then there's...
Was it Norm Macdonald?
Was that Norm Macdonald walking with him? I think a few seconds there. I need to see that. Go back 8 seconds.
Oh,
that's
no.
Norm Macdonald.
On the left?
Yes, that's gotta be Norm. Either that guy looks just like him.
Do you mean Turd Ferguson?
Turd Ferguson.
Accused murderers have said Marilyn Manson's music touches something dark in them. And then there's Natasha Cornett, the alleged leader of an Eastern Kentucky cult charged with killing 3 members of a Tennessee family. She's told her lawyer she believes she is the daughter of Satan and that she wants to meet Marilyn Manson. Cornett says the band helped spread her satanic message. Of course, this is a new battle over an old issue. In May 1984, Ozzy Osbourne came to town, and his visit caused quite a ruckus. Osbourne had bitten the head off of a bat not long before his trip to Louisville, and parents and church leaders were worried about his satanic message.
When I think that this group here makes Ozzy Osbourne look like Mr. Rogers.
Marilyn Manson has met opposition in many other cities so far, sometimes even violence. Protesters here say they want peace, but they want parents to beware.
We do need to exercise some vigilance.
You stop it there.
In listening.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of it is performance. Yes, like Therese in the comments says, how can people not see how performative it all is? And it is performance, but because they're trying to outdo each other with each subsequent decade, I feel like it gets more and more outlandish, and sometimes with some of them it can get very dark. And then do you hear, like, every generation says this about the rock stars from the, they're like, oh, she just said he makes Ozzy Osbourne look like What'd she
Mr.
say?
Rogers.
Mr. Rogers. Yeah, what does that make Elvis look like? It's so
Well,
funny.
and this highlights one of the other questions I wanted to ask. I'm going to ask the panel too. Because I think this is part of my theory that part of the reason why rock and roll has declined in popularity in terms of mainstream popularity is because it stopped feeling rebellious and it stopped feeling subversive because there's nothing left to subvert. And so people have just moved on to other things like rap music, despite being mainstream, still kind of feels a little subversive, but rock music doesn't. And I think that's one of the reasons. There's multiple other reasons.
That's a great question. What do you guys think? Why do you think rock is declining, or is it declining?
I don't know.
This is a tricky question because I guess you could say, as far as the metal side of things, I feel like there's this multiple answer thing. As far as it declining, I guess that's going to be very subjective how you perceive it. Now, because you got to remember, in America, especially with music, and this applies to all genres of music, America comes and goes with trends. There will be things that be considered in, and then as soon as it's no longer in, people stop listening to it, and then it's out. However, if you go to like a bunch of the European countries or even Latin America, a lot of those bands who go in and out in America never go out in a lot of those countries. I'll give you an easy, convenient answer. Megadeth. They've been in and out in America, but they never stop being big in South America, Brazil, Argentina, Chile. They'll, one decade they'll play 10, 20,000 venue in America, and then before I know it, they're to 3,000. But in Argentina and Chile, they're always playing to 20,000. So there's definitely an American issue there with the flakiness and the trendiness. And then, of course, you got the political stuff that kind of winds in with, everything being PC. And then you got also, I feel like for me, in my opinion, with metal, I'm probably going to have the only one who's going to have this take it. I feel like metal, not hard rock, but metal's right where it needs to be. To me, in order to be an outcast, you can't truly have all the spotlight on you. You really can't have all the spotlight. Yeah, it's nice when you have it, and it worked out for like thrash metal per se in the 80s, Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax. It worked to their favor. But in some ways, in order to be the black sheep, you can't have that type of attention. I'm kind of like where it's at least in America. Like, there are bands who are bigger than others, of course, but nothing is the way Taylor Swift is. To me, Taylor Swift is the evil, monolithic mega corporation, and that's fine. I'd rather have her be that way. I'm fine with that. So I personally think it's right where it needs to be. But however, you go to a lot of these other countries, a lot of these acts never fell out of favor, which is funny because in America, it's very different how music tends to operate in America.
A lot of those. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, go ahead.
I was saying a lot of those bands, from the 80s and 90s, a lot of them still have staying power because you can go to any stadium, sports stadium, football stadium, and still hear AC/DC's Thunderstruck or Back in Black being played. You can still hear Queen's Another One Bites the Dust. You can still hear Metallica's Enter Sandman. You can still hear Guns N' Roses' Welcome to the Jungle. Those still have staying power. I don't think a lot of rock bands in the past 20, 25 years are being listened to now the same way those bands from the 80s and 90s still are. And I don't anticipate them being listened to that level, 20 years from now. And I think like a couple of things also contribute to the downswing of its popularity. One of those things, and this is something like, are you guys familiar with Rick Beato? So he's you don't like him? A lot of people think he's pretentious.
I know he is. I'm not a big fan. His interviews are great. His interviews are really good. Yeah.
Well, he did a video about the decline of rock, and he said one of the things that I had thought of, and I didn't hear anyone else saying that, so I was like really excited. One of the reasons why he believed it declined was because of Telecommunications Act of 1996. That removed limits of corporations owning radio stations. Like before that, there was only a set number of radio stations they could own. And so once that happened, you had a big conglomerate like Clear Channel, which is now iHeartMedia, buy up a bunch of radio stations. And so now record companies only had to go to a lot fewer radio stations owners to distribute the music, whereas in the past they had to go to different, avenues, and of course payola and all that stuff. Because once you saw the Telecommunications Act go into effect, you saw all those boy bands. You were mentioning that earlier, Nick. Those boy bands and Britney Spears and all that suddenly become popular. Like, that wasn't organic. That was pushed. That was marketed.
Of course
it was made, and all of a sudden it was just hugely popular. And I think
that was part of America's flakiness, to add to what you're saying, because America has a way of being into something and then it's not.
Yeah.
And sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, that was one of the reasons. And the other reason, I didn't even think about this, and I want to see what you guys think. But he also said that the decline of the influence of blues music had effect on rock. And the more I thought about it, the more I kind of think there's some truth in that. Because I think about a lot of those classic guitar players, like ones we've talked about tonight, Eddie Van Halen, Slash, Guns N' Roses, Zakk Wylde, Jerry Cantrell. I can hear blues in their music. And I think that's one of the reasons why they have the staying power that they did. Because he went on to make the argument that a lot of the pop music had bass lines that were closer to traditional blues, and he speculated that that was part of why they were popular. And so I think there's some truth in that. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I don't know. First of all, I kind of think just Rick Beato is one of those guys that just likes to hear himself talk. I mean,
fair.
There's just one of those. There's just those people who you just hear them and you don't know why you don't like them, but they just rub you the wrong way. And I think
got your reminder.
So like, there's just like, there's two things about Rick Beato. Number one, he's about 2 or 3 years ago, he started getting into these fantastic interviews. I mean, he was interviewing Sting, Keith Jarrett, all these. He's got wonderful interviews. I mean, like, just these great guests. So his interviews are fantastic, mainly because he stays out of the way and lets the guest talk. So I've got to give him props for that. But when he starts talking about, like, he does like music theory courses. I've never heard him play a note. I mean, I've never heard a Rick Beato song, and I don't want to trash on him because, I mean, maybe he's a great guitar player or a great musician. I don't know. But he kind of gets out of his depth, I think, sometimes with stuff like what you're describing, like music theory, his opinions about history, and which I don't necessarily agree with his opinion, what you just expressed. And also, the thing that really rubbed me the wrong way was he defended, there was that controversy when Ed Sheeran, with that, whatever that song was that he wrote, and he was being sued by Marvin Gaye's estate for ripping off Let's Get It On. I don't know if you
ripping off
that.
Marvin Gaye. This is why you really got upset with him.
Well, because it's so obvious. It's so obvious that the Ed Sheeran song is ripping off Marvin Gaye. It's just I don't understand how you can listen to that song and not hear that. And I think Ed Sheeran's very guilty of, he should be sued, he should be held responsible for ripping it off. And Rick Beato did an entire series on defending, he even got into like music theory about why it's not the same song. It's exactly the same song. The first 3 seconds are it's Let's Get It On. And
how do you not like this guy, Ed Sheeran? I'm kidding.
But anyways, so it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But getting to his point and what I was going to say earlier, and to say like, why is metal on the decline? Why is anything on the decline? I guess it also ties into an earlier comment in the chat. Somebody was saying like, music today, there's no good music today, and I think it's impossible for me to agree with that, and I think it's impossible. I think you can make that statement, and that's fine, but there's a lot of great music being made today, and the music that's being made are by the people in your Facebook feed who say like, "Hey guys, check out my new song." It's like it's small independent artists, and it's happening all over the world, and they're just people that you're never going to hear about. These guys are never going to be selling out stadiums. It's people who are working on music in their home studios, and they're paying out of their own hard-earned money to promote, their own and I'm clearly, I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about all these other poor independent artists. I'm joking. I'm talking about myself too. But people on our level, and we're all out there, and there are artists out there that are being true to themselves. And you do have the artists on every level who are, as Leonard Cohen says, singing to the rafters. They're just full of crap. And it's they're trying to get on the radio, they're trying to get streams and all this stuff. It's just the same. And you can there's wonderful heavy music being made. I don't seek it out as much anymore, but I can think of some artists that I listen to now, or that are in my rotation. But it's also we're so inundated with so much music now. I mean, you go on streaming services and it's just, you could have any song, any type of music.
The access is different. Now, back then you had to go and really seek stuff out. Nowadays, everything is just right in front of you at the tip of your fingers.
And now it's like you go on a streaming service, and as a listener, I'll go on a streaming service and there'll be like a genre, or it wouldn't even be a genre, it'll be like a description. It's like mood, chill jazz, or mood, Sunday afternoon, electronic, or it'll be like whatever. And you just click that button and do other stuff, and you're not even paying attention to, entire works of people, into their albums. And so music has just changed. And it's also moved in a different way to where it exploits artists, just in a different way than it used to, on maybe a smaller scale, maybe a bigger scale, but it's always the artist is at the bottom, and the artist is the one who is just, I was having this conversation with my bass player the other day, and it's just like, sometimes I don't even want to release music, because why? It's like I have to worry about, the way that these different distributors online are, they kind of hold your music hostage in a way. And it's kind of disheartening. It's just like, well, so what, I get like 10 streams, and so what's the point, kind of thing. We were just both having this heart to heart kind of like venting with each other. Of course, that's not the answer, but it was also, one other thing I wanted to say. You touched on, Megadeth, and Dave Mustaine's also a Born Again.
Yep. I've been reading his book recently.
Wow.
Yeah, his book is outstanding. I'm at the stage where he is heavily into the drugs, and his band are getting into fights on a nightly basis right now. I'm at that stage, and I think around 1987, 88, right around when I was born. But yeah, go on, take it back.
Yeah.
You're speaking.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that you mentioned. I was wanting to mention that when we were talking about Alice Cooper, and the final thing I want to say about all this is that, of all this, all the controversial, the satanic stuff, all the evil stuff, all the things that are happening in music, I think we have to acknowledge who the most evil musician is out there, and who has just really been the most evil impact on music, and that's John Mayer.
I agree. His voice sounds like if Marge Simpson was a man.
I love that you agree. I have to. This is one of. I didn't know you were going to reveal this. Anthony has a list of things that he hates, and
his voice drives me nuts. I like every time I hear it, I have to project my frustrations of his voice and start singing in his voice, making fun of it. And people are like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "I'm projecting." Now let me project. Most people get mad when no one ever admits a projection. I'm actually admitting it for once, so let me actually project. So I'm projecting the cringiness of his male Marge Simpson voice.
Well, so I try not to show my hate.
LOL.
I try not to show my hate list very often, because I don't think that's that's not something I want to project.
Avocados are also on there, which is
what?
Well, okay. Keri,
Wow.
You're using spousal privilege with your knowledge here. It's no fair. But I got to say that I don't want to get into. I have a very huge love list, but everybody has their hate list, and but I the undisputed heavyweight champion of all time, of all the years, the top spot belongs to John Mayer. There's nobody can top him. You cannot top him. The 2 through 10, 2 through that changes. That it's in flux. Some bands leave, some bands come back. But John Mayer holds the number one spot.
Okay,
holds
let
the
me
number one spot.
let me interrupt to show you guys something. I'm speeding this up to almost 2 times the speed. This is a chart from Billboard that shows the popularity of different genres of music. And you're going to start here at 1958. You can see pop standards, that's like Sinatra and stuff, going way down. Rock and roll, which was like Elvis and stuff, started going down in the 60s. Soul and rock, so they separate rock from rock and roll. Soul and rock here for a few decades, and then rock shoots way up in 78. The 80s shoots way up. And then starts descending in pop. Look at pop climbing from the bottom. That's like the Taylor Swift stuff, I guess. Rap and hip hop starts doing pretty well in the 90s. And then rock just keeps descending there. It's pretty interesting. And then this is kind of getting, now this just ends at 2013. I wish I could find one that extends to today, because rap and hip hop, you can see, started climbing there. And I think it probably, if we had one that was went past 2013, I think you'd see it go way up, you know.
Well, one of the reasons why rap, there are a lot of reasons why it became popular, was because record companies pushed it because it was cheaper for them to tour compared to rock groups, because you got a lot more people and roadies and stuff. But most rap's just like some dude, maybe got a DJ, maybe an entourage, but it was just cheaper for them.
It was cheaper. It was also like the lifestyle was easy to also push to. It was also a lot more impressionable. There's so many layers to a lot of those things. I mean, this is why I stress like a lot of the music that became popular is because it was what was put in front of you. I'm not saying the spoon thing is a bad thing. It's just simply just what happened. And I actually agree with Anthony's point about what's good that's out there now. The difference between back now and what's put in front of you is you have to go seek it out. For me, I was already well-grained into that mentality for 20 years. I'm already, like, for me, seeking something out. That's like, okay, I can already do that. I mean, when we think of a lot of our favorite, let's just say burger joint, pizza joints, none of us are going to say our favorite burger joint is McDonald's. We're going to say some great local mom and pop shop. And I kind of apply that same logic with a lot of the great bands I find of now. They're the equivalent of the mom and pop shops to me. Is finding that music now, and there's a ton of great bands I'm really digging right now that are newer, and I enjoy the hell out. But yeah, they're not going to get that mainstream type of attention. You got to go out and seek it. I know people are creatures of habit for better and worse, but people have been kind of taught to just, hey, let this find me, and and that's cool. That's fine. There's some good stuff that's found me before, but there's a reward to when you go out and seek something and you find it and you discover it and you like it. Especially when I used to do the blind buys, when I would look at an artwork, if it looked really kick-ass, I would buy the cover just because the cover is killer. Yeah, every now and then there would be some bad stuff like, oh, shoot, why did I buy that? But the times where you find that thing and you love it, oh man, where the rewards so much more rewarding.
I've done so many good bands like that. When back in the 90s, I would just like go to the CD store, like Virgin Megastore or whatever, and you could do the listening station. Like that looks like a cool cover, and anyways, I've discovered some bands like that.
Real quick,
Metalhead on the United Nations. You can't get any more memorable of a cover than that. And you're gonna tell me that's not gonna be killer? Come on.
Real quick, I just want to ask, and I do want to play something funny before we end, Keri. Just one thing.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask, do you ever think we'll see another band like Nirvana come along? And I mean that in a sense, when Nirvana came in, hair metal was already on the decline, but it kind of ushered the remnants of it, out. And I'm just curious if people today, younger people listening to music, we'll get to a point where they're tired of a lot of the synthetic pop music and they want something that feels more raw, something that they resonate with more. Do you think we'll ever see a band or artist that has more kind of a rawer sound that people are really gravitating towards, similar to what happened with Nirvana?
I think it's all kind of already just, I think Nirvana was kind of the last bubble to burst in that way because of the timing and what's happened since. So, for example, when they came out in 91, and their legacy, their career ended obviously in 94, but then it continued with like the Foo Fighters, and it continued with a bunch of other bands that were emulating Nirvana. But with that, kind of like MTV sort of started to fizzle out and to turn into something else. And we just saw the landscape change. And then we started seeing things like MP3.com come out and Napster and then all these different ways for bands to put out music. So now we don't have this, kind of what I was saying earlier, we don't have this singular avenue for music to be released anymore. It's not just the radio. It's not MTV it really anymore.
Not
it's
the
not
labels.
It's just for someone to come and reinvent the wheel. I mean, I think probably that's already happening somewhere, and we just don't know. We don't have access to it because it's the irony is that we can access any music that we want, but it's hard for us to all experience that at the same time now. It's harder now because there's so much out there. There's just so much music. It's hard to access it all.
Yeah, as far as if you're looking at the next Nirvana in terms of the quality, in terms of Rebellion, that's going to be a very subjective thing. But if you're talking about in terms of a band playing that become that big, I don't think so. I think you're going to have smaller successes because of how much more widespread everything is, especially with the power of the internet. Like, I'll look at like what my kids are into and like what their friends are into. And it's really interesting because these are kids who are discovering things, figuring out what they like. And we're talking between 9 and 12 here. And it's interesting. No 1-2 kid has much that they share. They all have their own thing, which is kind of interesting in a way. Like my kids, they don't like Taylor Swift, but they're more into like the K-pop, that type of stuff, from way across the other side of the planet. But of course, you got some kids who are into that, but you also have kids who are into what their parents listen to. And I think that's because they're growing up with the internet where everything is so widespread. They're not just getting into whatever's put in front of them. Kids are already becoming a habit of, seeking stuff. Oh, what's this playlist on? I'll look at that and go down the well. I mean, I feel like Miguel, I don't know if you guys watch Cobra Kai, but I feel like Miguel was a good depiction of a kid singing on music. Oh, yeah, I looked at that playlist, Johnny, the 80s metal playlist. I went down the well. That sums up how they digest music, a lot of them nowadays. They go down, they look on the playlist, and they're seeking out. So and that's actually kind of interesting. So I guess in terms of how big a band is, yeah, you're probably not going to see that again. And if they do, they're going to be a lot more rarer. It's not going to be as frequent as it once was, if that happens, of course. They're definitely not going to be all these successes left and right. And for me, once again, I have no issue with that. For me, as long as I like it, that's all that matters to me. And if I could get a few other people to share that love with, hey, that's all gravy.
Damn it, I missed most of that. I'm sure it's great.
Can you repeat that?
Mystery Chris, I was like, oh, I hope his computer didn't die. So we went over by about 40 minutes. So thank you so much for our guests for being patient and staying with us. We're going to end with one funny thing. Actually, two funny things, because in the comments, Pirate Tomsky, one of the mods, had made a joke about Marilyn Manson and McDonald's after we were talking about that. And so I just wanted to show you this Midnight Smash for late nights and loud souls. That's what it's.
Wow.
that's the first time, I think, maybe the second time I've used AI to make an image.
Oh, wow. It actually looks like a real ad, too.
Does.
Yeah. They should do that for Halloween. I thought of it when you said, Nick, talking about music, and you were like, if you ask somebody what their favorite burger joint is, nobody says McDonald's, they say a local joint. And I was thinking, except Marilyn Manson.
Mick Manson.
Kids gonna line up in droves for those burgers now.
Okay,
Keri,
so
you play
which
the
one?
last one. We played this before. It's a Living Color skit, but I just think it's one of the greatest skits ever.
Oh, this is so funny. Okay, so if you guys are new here, usually at the end of pop culture, we show a few funny clips related tangentially to the topic. Tonight we have time for one clip, and this is the one Chris picked. So enjoy. Let's see.
Kato presents the man of the Middle East, the Elvis of Aqaba, Johnny Abdul. Every amazing hit he's ever sung is now included in his new dual album set. Unforgettable hits like You Ain't Nothing But a Hostage. And if you act now, you'll get Wait a Minute, Mr. Postman, Stairway to Mecca, Beirut Suede Shoes, Heartbreak Hussein, Papa's got a brand new Baghdad, I Left My Hand in San Francisco, and who could forget his beautiful love ballad, Love Me Tender or Die Slowly. And of course, his biggest hit.
You see the girl in the burqa throwing her panties. You could never do this today. This is Jim Carrey, by the way.
No.
Show-stopping Iraq around the clock. All these hits and many, many more. Send $13.95 to Johnny Sings, Box 666, Little Neck, Qatar 11212.
Qatar.
Little Neck Qatar.
Oh man. Thank you guys so much for being here. It was your wisdom, your opinion, knowledge of music and music history was so valuable. We did miss the 90s. I think we have to do a follow-up. I realized because I wanted to show some clips of Christian rock and we didn't get to, and so we should do a Christian rock episode at some point. That'd be fun.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I think it sounds delightful.
I think it would be, we just show, because I want to show some Larry Norman. I always sing that one. My husband knows because I'm like, gonorrhea on Valentine's Day. And then
the other day we were waking up, and apropos of nothing, Keri's like, it wasn't like good morning, it was like gonorrhea on Valentine's Day.
And you're still looking for the perfect and then but the chorus is, why don't you look into Jesus? And there's like a whole history of him and Christian rock. Anyway, you have to do that.
That was funny.
Nick, tell us again where people can find you and what you have coming up.
Sure. I am on Twix, aka Twitter X, at Nick Wesier. I have a YouTube channel, 32 Flavors of Nick Wesier. I talk comics, I talk 80s action movies, and I talk heavy tunes. And then I have a channel about heavy tunes with my buddies called Bonded by Metal as well. I'll send you that link as well in the private chat. But yeah, I cover those things. Basically anything cool, badass, and manly I talk about on both of those channels. That's just my thing. I'm a cultural type of guy, and to me, I think I kind of like about what Cliff Duncan says. If we really want to be effective in culture, we need to make the most attractive culture. And for me to engage and show where we can have an attractive culture, I think that's how we bring people to us, rather than just spend all day owning the other side. Don't get me wrong, there are times where it's fun, and yeah, we've all taken our pot shots, but ultimately it's so much more productive to really show why you are engaging, rather than why you are antagonistic. And yes, Curmudgeon, I absolutely know.
No.
I don't know what happened, but I do know the band Razor, and I love them. They're an outstanding Canadian thrash band.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad I didn't kick you out by mistake. I was trying
to. All right, I got it. Okay, here's the regular channel link.
Yeah, send me your channel link.
All right, there's that, and I'm going to Bonded by Metal, switching account, and you can. But seriously, thanks for having me, Keri. It's been fun. Good to hang out with you, Anthony, Chris. A pleasure as well. I love hanging out here. It's been a while, and yes, please, I would love to do a follow-up because these are very fun topics.
Yeah,
and we can learn a lot from each other. And I love hearing the other perspectives of things I'm not aware of, because for how much I know, there's still so much I don't know. So it's nice to learn from you guys.
Yeah. And also, I'd like to say in the chat, real quick, Davina said that she's going to go check out Iron Maiden, and which reminds me that we didn't even talk about Iron Maiden, which is so important. Getting speaking of these bands that get a bad rap, but they're actually their lyrics are actually pretty cool. Iron Maiden, I got to say, when I was a kid, they were how I learned about who Alexander the Great was.
Yes.
I learned about what the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner was, because it's like a 15-minute song based on the poem. I learned what the word albatross was because of that. And I learned so much about history from Iron Maiden. And they're just a wonderful band.
Maiden and Saxon taught me about history. I learned about what 1066 and the Witches of Salem was because of Saxon.
Yeah.
It's crazy how even the history-based bands are super awesome like that. You can get an education and headbang.
Yeah, exactly. That's what was so great about them. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
I've got also a couple people to thank. Sorry, I'm getting very confused. It's been 2 hours and my brain's not working. So I was about to kick Nick off again by mistake. I was trying to change the banner.
I've overstayed my welcome.
I'm just I need a producer. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just thank a couple people. ADL for $1.99. Thank you. Says I do like Beto,
Rick Beato.
But Ed Sheeran's a dope. Well, there you go. Also, ADL for $4.99. I like John Mayer, but my formative years were also his career peak. And just so you know, Therese, the mod, told you, Anthony, that you have lost her and 2 sisters.
Okay, well, sorry.
With your John Mayer opinion.
Hey,
North American Hammer for $20. Thank you. Says born 1982, Antichrist Superstar T-shirt, trench coat, skunk JNCOs. What's that? Doc Martens and chains at a Catholic high school. The media reaction to Columbine, labeling us all domestic satanic terrorists. That was my wake-up call to the agenda. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Woo.
We did a whole episode on satanic panic, North American. If Mystery Chris and I did one, it was probably about a year or 2 ago for Halloween, right, Mystery Chris?
Yeah. And we also, plugging another episode, we did a whole episode on commercialization of hip hop. So if you're into rap and hip hop, check that one out too.
WG, thanks for being here, WG, for $50. Says great topic tonight. Thank you, Anthony. Your music is fantastic. All the best.
That's so nice. I feel bad that I was trashing on other musicians, though. Except John Mayer.
The weather's really nice today, but John Mayer sucks.
You have the same contempt for guacamole. So, ADL for $4.99.
Well, you don't like bacon.
That's true.
What?
Exactly. Thank you, Nick.
I didn't know you were a Muslim.
All right, when I come over, I'll take the extra bacon. You whoever makes bacon, I'll take the extras. She doesn't. So
I eat it.
You guys are always welcome here. If you're ever in Texas, you come stay with us. Anthony will cook you all the bacon, and I'll make you guac because he doesn't eat guac. So,
okay.
ADL, thank you for says. I kind of think the explicit label just made music more profane. It gave them an excuse, which it may have. It definitely was something people wanted. Randy Wallen for $2. Thanks again, Randy. Says The Who, Long Live Rock. We didn't even cover The Who.
We didn't even talk about Ice-T's band Body Count, how they'd had the song Cop Killer, and that got the attention of Dan Quayle, the sitting vice president of America. But it was funny because in all the reports I was watching, they all referred to Body Count, his band, as a rap group. I'm like, he doesn't rap. Yeah, he's rapped in other stuff, but he's not rapping in his rock band, his heavy metal band, because they say, oh, he's a rapper, he's a rap group, and then they proceed to play part of the song Cop Killer, which is clearly a heavy metal song. So I'm like, oh, it's because he's black. It's like, oh, well, there's a black guy in there, so it must be rap.
Even though black men were some of the great early guitar players like Chuck Berry and Hendrix, but let's pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah,
and Living Color.
I was about to say, I wish black people supported black rock stars the way white people support white rappers like Eminem. Because like in Living Color, when they played in front of the Apollo, all the black people were sitting on their hands watching. I'm like, you don't know what you're seeing.
Same with Hendrix when he played up in Harlem. He was real dissed, by the black community.
I used to know Vernon Reed from Living Color, and he was friends with a comedian I represented, and when we had a TV show, he did some music for us, and we used to hang out. Sometimes we played paintball together, and I think I nailed him in the head. He was great. Like, he was just a great human being, or he is a great human being. A lot of those people I haven't kept in touch with because my political views changed, and I'm sure that he and I are at odds on some things, but he was always very open-minded. Like, one of those people who I think you disagree on politics but can still be friends. I hope that's still the case. Anyway. Okay, last one. Did Tipper really care, or did she just want attention?
Yes.
Which yes and yes. Oh, wait, and one more. John Wayne. Thank you, John Wayne says, here's my lurker tax. You can thank Epic Mike for that brilliant idea. Great show. Thank you, John Wayne.
John Wayne. Well,
and then this is a note from Pirate earlier that told us, you may not know this, but if you play Coldplay backwards, you can hear double trash. Thanks, Pirate. You guys, this has been a fun show. Thanks for being here. Oh, my husband, Anthony Garcia, tell people where they can find you.
Anthony Music, AnthonyGarciaMusic.com. That's where you can find me.
AnthonyGarciaMusic.com, or here on YouTube, it's Anthony Music, but without the A. So it's Anthony Music.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. Have a good week.
All right, y'all. Good seeing y'all.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. Happy Halloween, Mystery Chris.
To you as well.
Okay. Bye-bye.